9. Ignition sequence.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
1, 0, and liftoff.
Mission complete, Houston. After serving the world for over 30 years, the space shuttle's earned its place in history and it's come to a final stop.
Bei heftigen Unwettern sind seit gestern Abend erneut 3 Menschen ums Leben gekommen. So extrem war der Sommer schon lange nicht mehr in Deutschland. Warum das Wetter seit fast 7 Wochen nun verrückt spielt, sagt Ihnen Gesa Eberl.
Wie mächtig die Naturgewalten wüten, hat Deutschland letzte Nacht wieder zu spüren bekommen. Im sächsischen Landkreis Bautzen wehte der Wind so heftig, dass ein 23-Jähriger, weil der Regen so laut war, vermutlich den umstürzenden Baum nicht hörte und erschlagen wurde.
Hier in der Heide und dann in Lausnitz weiter ist ein richtiges Unwetter übers Land gezogen mit Hagel und Sturmböen und Starkregen. Und dadurch vermutlich sind die Bäume umgekippt hier in der Lausnitzer Heide.
Spuren eines Blitzes an dieser Birke in Heidenau bei Dresden. Ein 9-jähriges Mädchen hatte sich hier im Freibad mit ihrer Freundesgruppe Schutz suchen wollen und wurde tödlich erwischt. Es sind diese extremen Bilder, hier der Ort Wildberg, die wir zurzeit fast täglich erleben, mitten im deutschen Sommer, der keiner zu sein scheint.
Auf dem Radar sieht man die zum Teil kräftigen Unwetter, die seit der Nacht von Bayern bis nach Norddeutschland hereingezogen sind. Und auf die Großwetterlage betrachtet bedeutet das, über den britischen Inseln liegt nach wie vor seit einigen Wochen schon ein kräftiges Tief. So kommt das Azorenhoch nicht wirklich zu uns, um uns einen schönen Sommer zu bescheren. Und das heißt, die Strömung geht ins Mittelmeer und bringt dann von dort die feuchtwarme Luft direkt zu uns. In der Folge dann mit schweren Gewittern.
Vor allem umstürzende Bäume sind eine Riesengefahr bei diesem Wetter. In Lüneburg wurde eine Radfahrerin sogar von einem Baum erschlagen. Die ICE-Strecke Berlin-Magdeburg musste heute Mittag 3 Stunden gesperrt werden, weil starker Regen die Wurzeln der Bäume freigespült hatte. Tiefmina wird sich leider so schnell noch nicht verziehen, aber so heftig und extrem sollen die Folgen in den nächsten Tagen laut Experten nicht mehr sein.
Es in der Nacht wieder schwere Gewitter gegeben, wie so oft in den vergangenen Tagen. 3 Menschen starben, darunter eine 9-Jährige, die in der Nähe von Dresden vom Blitz erschlagen wurde. Mehr von Sabine Rieden.
Im bayerischen Raisting haben Sturmböen ein Festzelt umgeweht. Für 5 Menschen endete hier der Sommerabend mit Verletzungen. An vielen Orten kamen derart große Wassermassen vom Himmel, dass für die Feuerwehr und andere Hilfskräfte die Nacht zum Dauereinsatz wurde. Vor allem in Sachsen stürzten eine Menge Bäume um, in Gärten, auf Straßen und auf Bahngleise. Nördlich von Dresden wurde ein Mann in seinem Auto erschlagen, als eine riesige Buche im Gewittersturm auf die Straße krachte. Er hatte am Rand der Landstraße angehalten, um das Ende des Unwetters abzuwarten. Für die Helfer sind solche Einsätze bitter.
Ja, es ist immer schwer für uns, wenn wir zu Einsätzen gerufen werden, wo wir nichts mehr machen können für die Person.
Ebenfalls in der Nähe von Dresden starb gestern Abend ein 9-jähriges Mädchen im Schwimmbad. Es wurde von einem Blitz getroffen, der in einen Baum einschlug, an dem das Kind gerade vorbeilief. Im Lauf des Tages gab es immer wieder Gewitter und Wolkenbrüche, vor allem in Deutschlands Osten. Teile von Berlin, zum Beispiel Neukölln, standen am Nachmittag unter Wasser. Seenlandschaft Großstadt. Aber wenigstens ist es dabei nicht auch noch kalt.
Das Qualifying zum Großen Preis von Großbritannien in Silverstone wurde heute nämlich zur Wasserschlacht. Die Strecke war so stark überflutet, dass das Qualifying zwischenzeitlich abgebrochen werden musste. Und das gab es wirklich noch nie in der Formel 1. Die Veranstalter appellierten an die Fans, zu Hause zu bleiben, weil das Gelände im Schlamm versank. Wer im Regenchaos die Nerven behielt, Marc Gabel berichtet.
Der WM-Führende war auch im Regenchaos von Silverstone eindeutig der coolste Fahrer. In einem völlig verrückten Qualifying schaffte er in den letzten Sekunden die Tagesbestzeit. Allen eigentlich irregulären Bedingungen zum Trotz. Eine gute Runde bei diesen Verhältnissen zu fahren ist wahrlich nicht einfach. Aber ich bin sehr glücklich über die Pole Position für Ferrari. Die erste nach fast 2 Jahren. So einiges an Regen ist der englische Motorsportfan ja ohnehin gewöhnt. Wenn es aber so schüttet, ist an Formel-1-Rennen nicht mehr zu denken. Nach den ersten 15 Minuten des Qualifyings ging erstmal nichts mehr. Alonso, Schumacher, Grosjean, einer nach dem anderen rutschte von der völlig überschwemmten Piste. Mit Glück und Können konnten die Fahrer Unfälle vermeiden. Die Rennleitung unterbrach daraufhin die Badetage von Silverstone für fast 1,5 Stunden. Nach dem großen Regen musste erst das ganze Wasser so gut es ging von der Strecke. Danach wurde tatsächlich wieder Rennen gefahren. Red Bull-Pilot Mark Webber blieb mit seiner schnellen Runde nur knapp hinter Alonso auf Platz 2. Michael Schumacher zeigte einmal mehr, warum er zu den besten Regenfahrern gehört. Eine super Runde zum Ende brachte ihm Platz 3.
Ja, bin natürlich zufrieden, nachdem wir in letzter Zeit doch, glaube ich, einen Trend haben, der in die positive Richtung geht. Dass wir jetzt hier auch wieder auf dem Podium sind, mit Aussichten auch eventuell ganz nach vorne zu fahren. 3 ist eine gute Ausgangsposition.
Alonso startet also von der Pole Position vor Mark Webber und Michael Schumacher. Neben ihm lauert Weltmeister Sebastian Vettel als Vierter. Vor Felipe Massa, Kimi Räikkönen, Pastor Maldonado wurde Siebter. Vor Lewis Hamilton und Romain Grosjean. 10. wurde Paul Di Resta. Auch für das morgige Rennen sagt der Wetterbericht Dauerregen voraus. Gute Chancen also auch für Sebastian Vettel, im Regenchaos noch ganz nach vorne zu fahren. Wobei die beste Bereitung für solche Bedingungen dürfte dann wohl dieser kleine Freund hier haben.
Zwischenzeitlich musste das Qualifying für 1,5 Stunden sogar unterbrochen werden. Nach der Pause fuhr Fernando Alonso vor Mark Webber auf die Pole Position. Von der zweiten Reihe aus gehen morgen Michael Schumacher und Sebastian Vettel ins Rennen.
Michael Schumacher sorgt weiter für spektakuläre Schlagzeilen. Ausrutscher im Landregen von Silverstone. Kurze Zeit später wird der Kampf um die Startplätze unterbrochen. Zu viel Wasser auf der Strecke. Nach 1,5 Stunden geht das Qualifying weiter. In letzter Sekunde entscheidet sich die Startaufstellung. Fernando Alonso erobert die Pole Position von Mark Webber. Aber direkt dahinter fährt Michael Schumacher seinen Mercedes von der 8. auf die 3. Position. Sebastian Vettel wurde 4. und startet mit dem Rekordweltmeister aus der 2. Reihe.
Also ich stehe erstmal auf der besseren Seite. Also da wird er wahrscheinlich ein kleines Problem haben, gleich beim Start schon mal anzugreifen. Und dann wird es auf die Umstände ankommen. Man muss sagen, dass die Umstände, wie wir sie heute hatten, wenn es regnet, sowohl auf Extrem und auch auf Intermediates, dass wir konkurrenzfähig sind.
Hauptsache keiner geht baden. Für echte Fans gehört Regen einfach zu Silverstone.
Die Sommermonate sind per se die niederschlagsreichsten im Jahr. Das liegt eben daran, dass warme Luft deutlich mehr Wasser aufnehmen und transportieren kann als kalte Luft. Für die Unwetterlage zuletzt sollten wir uns also erst einmal die Temperaturverteilung über Europa ansehen. Und da sehen wir schon am Mittelmeer sommerlich warme bis heiße Werte. Wassertemperaturen dort bei 25 Grad oder mehr. Noch weiter in Richtung Osten. Das wird dann gleich noch interessant. Temperaturen bis zu 40 Grad. Ja, zuerst einmal der Blick auf unsere Unwetterlage zuletzt. Verantwortlich war nicht nur die warme Luft, sondern natürlich auch noch ein Tiefdruckgebiet bei den britischen Inseln. Und das sorgte eben dafür, dass diese warme und extrem schwüle Luft ihren Weg aus Süden in Richtung Norden fand. Die Niederschlagsmengen binnen 24 Stunden also durchaus mal an die 90 Liter ran. Das ist mehr als ein ganzer Monatsniederschlag. Noch heftiger war es am Schwarzen Meer. Und dort hat die Luft eben einen Umweg nochmals über die große Hitze gemacht. Und dementsprechend riesig enorm waren dort eben die Niederschlagsmengen.
Indeed, when we talk about this much rain falling in such a short period of time, anywhere in the world you would have a disastrous result. You know, it even happened once here in Atlanta where we had about a month's worth of rain in just a period of about 8 hours or so, and the flooding was tremendous. I'll never forget that, just driving home, how impossible that was and how much damage was done here. The areas that we're talking about here are vulnerable in the sense that they're very low. They're in the valleys. This city right here in particular, the water came flowing from the mountains and it affected a huge area. Most of the deaths, close to 160 deaths, are believed to be in this one town alone. But there were other areas that were affected by flooding as well around the areas of the Black Sea. And you can see how they are in the valley near the coast, and the water just comes down from the mountain very quickly. Now, when we talk about those rainfall totals, those are measured in the city. In the mountains, it could have rained even more. And I want to tell you something, no matter where you are in the world, flash flooding can happen. If it rains where you live or near where you live, flooding can occur, and it can happen very, very quickly. It doesn't even have to be raining where you are to get this amount of water flowing through very, very quickly in an area, especially if you live near mountains or valleys or ravines or creeks or anything like that. As we take a look over here across our satellite image, what we're going to see again is that area of low pressure that kind of has remained here. Most of the action now moving now toward the Caspian Sea a little bit more, but some scattered rain showers still in the forecast. Any amount of rain that falls around this area could really be a concern as we head through the next 24 hours because so much rain has happened in that region already. Across the rest of Europe, we have some strong thunderstorms popping up across Eastern Europe and Northeastern Europe. And this is pretty much a welcome sight for so many of you because it's been so hot over this area. This could help cool the temperatures down. Look at some of these temperatures from the last 24 hours. We're still dealing with some intense heat with temperatures some 10, even 12 degrees above the average for this time of year. 27 in Warsaw, 34 in Kiev right now. We're looking at 22 in Paris. As we head through the next 24 hours, through the rest of the afternoon today and into tomorrow, scattered showers across the north and west. It's kind of a dividing line in here. This is where the stronger thunderstorms will pop up, but that will also bring you some relatively cooler temperatures over the next couple of days. So at least a little bit of relief in sight there. Another area we're watching for high temperatures, again, across many parts of China from east to west, looking at temperatures well above the average, in some cases near record highs. And watch out for the heavy rain, again, expected from the Yellow Sea here all the way through the Korean Peninsula and then into tomorrow across western parts of Japan. You know, something that happens pretty much anywhere in the world is thunder and lightning, and it can be very dangerous. We're looking at some strong storms, again, across portions of the U.S., especially here in the south. This time of year, those summer thunderstorms can pop up very quickly, and Christy, pretty much anywhere. Take a look and listen to what happened at this game. There it goes again. That guy right there decided to crouch down a little bit. That's what you're supposed to do if you're in the middle of an open field. This guy had the right idea, run away. Oh yeah, the catcher ran in, everybody just moved away. That guy that's crouching down, they say that if you are in an open field when thunder and lightning strikes, you're supposed to crouch down and become as small as you possibly can to try to avoid getting hit by lightning. He just stayed down there. That's one of the, they said they had no warning when this happened, that they didn't hear any rumble or thunder or see any lightning. Every time I see that, it makes me cringe. They said everybody was laughing at the end. Nobody was hurt, and the game did resume after about a 30 to 40-minute delay. I don't know who won, though. There you go. They're covering up the field. Dangerous jobs for those guys. I just wanted to share that with you. Pretty scary, you know? The ballpark, no place to take cover.
Yeah, very scary, but you know, it's a good reminder. You got to stop, drop, and stay there. I like the replay.
Oh my gosh!
Again. Yeah, we know the message now. Mara Ramos, thank you.
Sure. Hey, Christy, yeah, this is an ongoing problem across China. They're either dealing with extreme drought or extreme flooding, in some cases, both at the same time. Let's go ahead and take a look, first of all, at some of the pictures that we have from the area. As many as 1,000 people may have been left stranded by this landslides that were affecting Sichuan province. You can see the hillside just crumbling down the side of the mountain there. And we're not talking just about bushes here. Those are trees that are sliding down the mountain, and you can see it, the mud just trickling down. This has destroyed not only homes, but also roadways. The water, very high, bridges in many cases have been washed away, making conditions very, very difficult and extremely dangerous. As you can see here, villages have stayed isolated in many cases, and the rain, unfortunately, continues to fall across many of these areas. If you come back over to the weather map, let me show you where we're expecting the rain now. We have a line that's stretching across this area right over here, all the way back over toward the Yellow Sea and through the Korean Peninsula. That's going to be the areas to watch for the heaviest rainfall. We'll see some of that heavy rain also stretching back over toward Japan, back over toward Taiwan, but a little bit of a break in between here as we head into southern parts of China. That means the temperatures will be up for you yet again. As far as the Korean Peninsula goes, you got to remember that this is an area that has overall been in a drought. So this rain, for the most part, is beneficial. The problem is that it could be very heavy rainfall, and with that, we could end up seeing some significant flooding. When you look at the areas that need the rain the most, there's going to be these border areas between the north and the south, and then as we extend down to the southern tip of the Korean Peninsula, some of the worst drought in 100 years by some estimates. And you can see here why the rain is needed. We just don't need it all at once. And in some cases, we could be seeing across this area maybe 8 to 15 centimeters locally, and that could really cause some flooding. So we'll monitor that. It looks like most of the heavy rain will stay away from Japan, but we could see some heavy rain across western parts of Japan, so watch out for that. And as I was telling you, farther to the south, it will stay hot and humid. But now as we head to Australia, here, of course, it's winter. Temperatures have been a little bit on the cool side, and as we head through the next 24 hours, the thing to watch is going to be this very heavy rain that is moving overnight tonight across southeastern Australia. We're already seeing the potential for some flooding and some very high river levels over this region. One front will already move away, and our next weather system is the one that could really cause some very heavy rain. A month's worth of rainfall in just 24 hours. Watch out for flooding in this region. So I want to take you to the U.S. now and take you here off the coast of the U.S. state of Massachusetts. The water a little bit warmer than average, and that could have something to do with this. Take a look at these pictures. Sightings of a great white shark. Can you imagine being that kayaker out on the water there? That is a great white shark that was spotted on the beach over the weekend. Now, this sighting is not alone. There's actually been sightings of 3 great white sharks across this area. The beaches were closed for a little while on this busy summertime weekend. They are tracking some of these sharks, and sometimes as far as Florida. You can look at these pictures there. They say that seal population is expected, has been much higher than average, and that has caused the white sharks to actually eat more of the seals. And when that happens, of course, the shark population also could go on the increase. Sharks, for the most part, don't like to eat people, so they just like the sharks. Just by the way, 35 years since the anniversary coming up of Jaws, which, by the way, was filmed off the Massachusetts coast. The last real shark attack that they had here that was a fatality was more than 75 years ago, so nothing to fear. Let's hope those sharks do stay away. So be extremely careful. I think I have about 30 seconds left. We are going to take a quick break right here on Newsstream. We will have another show, more news coming up for you right here on CNN. World Business Today is next. Thanks for watching.
This is the #1 international news brand. This is CNN.
Gab es einen kleinen Vorgeschmack. Die Queen und ihr Prinzgemann hatten die Chance, das olympische Feuer auf Schloss Windsor kurz in Augenschein zu nehmen.
Olympia erhält königliche Weih. Auf Schloss Windsor nimmt die Queen das Feuer in Augenschein. Für einen Moment hält der Regen inne beim royalen Zwischenstopp der Flamme auf dem Weg nach London. Olympia ist für Gastgeberland Großbritannien ein nationales Ereignis. Königin Elisabeth liegen die Spiele auch ganz persönlich am Herzen. Der Grund dafür galoppiert hier vor Windsor auf. Sarah, die Enkelin der Queen, reitet bei Olympia für das Königreich. Zweimal verpasste die 31-Jährige in der Vergangenheit die Qualifizierung für Olympia. Diesmal gehört Sarah Phillips zum Team. Jetzt rückt alles immer näher. Wir sind alle ganz aufgeregt. Sie waren schon mal ganz dicht davor, dann hat sich ihr Pferd verletzt. Wie läuft es jetzt? Ach, ich bin ja nicht die Einzige, die solche Probleme hat. Andere Reiter bewältigen auch Schwierigkeiten. Man muss einfach weitermachen. Mit Glück klappt es. Olympia ist bei den Königs Familiensache. Sarahs Mutter, Prinzessin Anne, holte das Feuer aus Athen nach London, wo die Spiele Ende Juli beginnen. Die Tochter der Königin ist selbst eine passionierte Reiterin. Anne ritt 1976 für Großbritannien bei den Spielen in Montreal. Um den Olympia-Auftritt zu Hause beneidet sie ihre Tochter nicht. Die Princess Royal verliert ungern vor den Untertanen die Haltung. Mir wäre es wirklich schwer gefallen, auf heimischem Boden anzutreten. Auswärts ist es viel leichter. Und überhaupt würde ich heute das Ganze drumherum hassen. Alles ist schlimmer. Wegen des Drucks? Ja, für jeden. Damals gab es nur 1 oder 2 Stars. Heute stehen alle so im Rampenlicht. Sarahs Vater, Mark Phillips, ist auch ein Olympia-Veteran. Er holte 1972 in München Gold. Das schraubt die Erwartungen an die Tochter hoch. Sarah hat das Zeug, ihren Eltern und dem Königreich Ehre zu machen, glauben Fachleute. Sarah ist eine der besten Reiterinnen der Welt. Sie war Europameisterin und Weltmeisterin. Das schafft man nicht allein mit Glück. Hier genießt Sarah schon einen kleinen olympischen Triumph. Sie trägt die Fackel ein Stück des Weges. Die Briten feiern die Enkelin der Königin schon wie eine Olympiasiegerin. Die Medaillen warten derzeit noch im Tower von London auf die Sieger, neben den Kronjuwelen der Königin, sozusagen bei Oma im Tresor. Ein Sieg für Sarah wäre die Krönung der olympischen Familientradition und für den Gastgeber Großbritannien ein königlicher Gewinn.
Some royal residents watching on. 74-year-old Gina McGregor, she joked about being delayed a little when she was caught in a downpour of rain. There's so much rain around at the moment here in London, minutes before as she ran through the castle's quadrangle. The Queen officially opens the London Games in 2.5 weeks. Well, earlier, two giants of British sport got their hands on the torch. Here's Sir Roger Bannister. He opened the relay in Oxford, where he ran the first sub-4-minute mile 58 years ago. And there's Sir Steve Redgrave rowing with the torch. He won a gold medal at a mere 5 consecutive Olympic Games, took the flame onto the Thames River. And here's what he said afterwards.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to get involved in the Games is trying to sort of spread the fever in some ways for a wider country. There's a very small percentage of athletes that get to compete, and it's amazing for them. Those people that get the tickets and are able to go, it's an amazing experience from that point of view. It's pretty special watching it on TV when it's in your own country as well. But the torch, and I've seen it in other countries as well, it just sort of bonds everyone together. It's sort of the moment that everyone knows the Games are going to happen and they feel part of it. But the great thing about it is the de-armament. There's a gas cylinder was in here, which gets taken out. So the previous Games is that you have to hand your torch back and then you have to wait months before you get your torch back. But this is pretty special. When you finish, you walk away with the torch that you carried. And that means so many more people can touch it as well and feel part of it.
Well, good morning and welcome to today's International Space Station Update Hour. You're joining us here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where the Orbit 2 team is currently on console, monitoring all of the respective systems on board this orbiting laboratory. That team today is being led by Flight Director Ron Spencer, there on the right. Joining him at the Capcom position, serving as the communication link between teams here on the ground and the astronauts up in space, is NASA astronaut Clay Anderson. And those astronauts right now are the crew of Expedition 32. They're being led right now by Russian cosmonaut Gennady Padalka, currently on his 4th space flight. You can see him there in the middle. To the left is his fellow Russian cosmonaut Sergei Revin on his 1st flight on board the International Space Station. And on the right, NASA astronaut Joe Acaba, his 2nd flight, previously flying on the shuttle mission STS-119. All 3 of the crew members earlier today participated in some onboard training, doing a Soyuz emergency egress drill, basically practicing getting into their Soyuz TMA-04M spacecraft in case of emergency, where the astronauts would need to quickly depart the International Space Station and return to Earth for things such as a rapid depress. You can see that Progress spacecraft off on the top of your screen. It's on the zenith-facing port of the Poisk module. So all the astronauts participating in that today and being walked through the procedures by teams here on the ground. Moving on, Commander Padalka also spent a few hours today doing a cabin fan assembly removal and replacement activity on the ATV-3, which is the unmanned cargo craft built by the European Space Agency, also currently docked to the International Space Station. Then in addition to that, he'll be doing some inspection and photography on some of the windows on the Russian service module, or the Zvezda, checking for any changes, any potential defects or marks, or any discoloration. Moving on, our 2nd Russian cosmonaut Sergei Revin is stowing some items today inside of that 47 Progress vehicle, which will be undocking a little bit later this month, and then redocking, testing out a new core system for the automated docking that these unmanned cargo crafts use. That'll begin on July 22nd with that Progress 47 undock. It'll redock 2 days later, testing out that new system, and then finally undock on July 30th, and then burn up in the Earth's atmosphere upon re-entry. As with all these events, we'll have live coverage beginning at 3 p.m. on Sunday, July 2nd of that undocking, and will also carry the redock operations 2 days later, and then that final undock on July 30th. So along with stowing items for all of these, he's also updating the station's inventory management system, which meticulously tracks every piece of hardware on board the station, so the astronauts and teams on the ground always know where to look. And our third Expedition 32 crew member, Joe Acaba, the NASA astronaut, was doing some air sampling earlier today with the air quality monitor, checking the astronauts' breathing air. He'll also be doing some troubleshooting work with the ISAC, which is the International Space Station Agricultural Camera. A laptop that is used to control that recently failed, so he'll be going through some steps along with specialists here on the ground to figure out what just went wrong. And then one other activity that Acaba will be doing coming up pretty soon, he'll be doing a ham radio contact with Women in STEM, or Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, high school aerospace scholars here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
I would like to give the floor for the greeting to the ground preparation team lead. I greet you and welcome to our hospitable land of Baikonur, and I would like to report that all systems, ground systems, are ready for the final preparation stage of the flight. So we are closing the official part of the ceremony. Let's take a few pictures.
Телефон приводится в рабочее состояние на 2 секунды вот эта Ну, ладно, задел. Чтобы они привыкали, чтобы место свое. Ну, зачем? Новенький, не новенький, нет.
Саня.
Саня.
Угу.
Перед введением подводки сделать. Чтобы оценить, что не мешают ли шланги введению. Да. Все, а для меня, пожалуйста. Все это? На меня посмотрите, пожалуйста.
Right.
Есть на пресечение. Да, посмотрите, для продавца.
Надо прямо дружбу. Командир должен быть серьезным.
Now the questions to the American astronaut Sonita. You will have to get familiarized with your vehicle. Are you ready to do this? Yes, of course. The station is huge now. It will be very interesting for me to get to know the new station. During the fit check, it was very touching that you embraced each other. And it was your initiative. It means that the team is very united and friendly. So the men actually are very supportive of you, right? Of course they are. We have been working together for 2 and living very close to each other for 2 years. Yeah, we are a very good team.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Я подержу.
Take a picture. Один сажать, потом второй. Что мы успели снять. Ром, ну советом-то можете помочь?
Молодец. Ногами.
Ну что, стоит, да, нормально?
Теперь в эту сторону, пожалуйста.
Все, идем на смотровую.
So this is a tradition since the beginning of the flight program here. All the astronauts who are going to fly plant a tree here, and you probably saw where we were walking. There's the older trees from the very beginning, and now we have the new tree, and it symbolizes group working together and what we can do on this planet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Теперь интервью кто хотел?
Да, в конце аллеи.
В конце аллеи? Пойдемте.
You're a very experienced astronaut. How hard is it to work in space? It's an interesting question. It's just like life on Earth. Also very hard. We know what to do on the station. We have lots of things on our list. It will be just like life. We'll live our life on board the station. Do you have a secret of teamwork? I think it comes before becoming a pilot. Because we've been working together for over 2 years. We're just like a family. We know each other very well. We know where we need to help each other, or where the person is able to do it on his or her own. So we are one crew now. You said it's just like life. How do you relax in this life in space? Yes, it's an interesting question too. Sometimes we do regular things like we do on Earth. We watch movies. but it's such a fascinating place, and you can look out of the window, and we also take pictures and work with camera, so it's an absolutely beautiful place. And what about books? I have one book with me. It's Upanishads, the Indian tradition and culture. So it's a small book. Thank you. And Sunny told me that you like to sing in your free time. Would you sing us a song? Yes, she said that, so she should sing. Let's do it together. So you don't want to sing for us? A little bit later, in space. Okay, so we'll be looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Вот, то есть осталось разобраться только всего лишь ситуации, можно будет расписать. Я бы СКГС не брал, это контроль стыка, то есть тем более, уже остается.
Nice.
Sunny, look at us. Aki-san. Aki-san. Thank you.
Next time we'll be be in our spacesuits getting in it, so I think it's ready for us and we're ready for it. So let's go.
Thank you very much.
rocket. And that's how we're leaving Earth, right there.
But there's no funny pictures on your camera, so don't worry.
Днепр и Зенит на территории подобной критической Земли. Это круглая сфера толщиной в 2 миллиметра.
It's a wonderful museum you are having here. Every time I come here, it's very interesting for me. And we have a small gift for you too.
Садитесь. Да, добраться. Как обычно. Где будет надо, может быть, потом уже потом
Здесь оставлю, пусть стоят.
Так, 600 есть. Так, ослабить.
Всех начальников. А потемнее стало, да?
Good morning and welcome to today's International Space Station Update Hour. You're joining us here inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Right now we're looking on as the Orbit 2 team is currently on console, monitoring all of their respective systems on board the orbiting laboratory. Today's team is being led by Flight Director Ron Spencer, there on the right, and next to him at the Capcom position, serving as the communication link between all the teams here on the ground and the astronauts up in space, is Anna Fisher. And those astronauts right now are the crew of Expedition 32, having been on board the station since May 16th. In the middle there is Russian cosmonaut and Expedition 32 Commander Gennady Padalka. To the left, another Russian cosmonaut, Sergei Revin, on his first spaceflight. On the right there is NASA astronaut Joe Akaba on his second flight, a veteran of one shuttle mission, STS-119. Just getting straight into the cruise day today, here we can see Akaba and some of the work he was doing in the Japanese experiment module with the SPHERES experiment. SPHERES standing for the Synchronized Position, Hold, Engage, and Reorient Experimental Satellites. They're those bowling ball size objects. You can see the orange one floating right there in the top middle of your screen that are controlled by different algorithms to help scientists test out different autonomous docking and rendezvous operations. And all of these satellites are self-contained and contain their own fuel sources and also electronics and computers inside. Along with that SPHERES experiment, he's been working on the hardware command panel for the HTV spacecraft. He did a checkout earlier today. That HTV is the unmanned cargo craft built by the Japanese space agency. It's scheduled to launch a little bit later this month on July 22nd, and will be delivering approximately 4.6 tons of cargo to the International Space Station. One other task for Akaba today is doing a lens and battery swap on the Earth cam, which is one of the Earth observation experiments on board the International Space Station that allows students from around the country to control the camera and use it to document and take a look at different geological features across the planet using controls via the internet. Moving on, Commander Padalka immediately started his day today with a few sample taking activities for the Russian immuno experiment, which is looking to provide a better understanding for how the body's immune system is affected during long-duration missions in space, and also is increasing the understanding of the coupling between stress and the functioning of the immune system, which has direct relevance for people down here on Earth. He was also involved in some repair and recovery work on the Russian Vozduk system, which is part of the atmosphere revitalization systems on board the International Space Station. It's been having a few few issues, so he tested one of the vacuum pumps in it and found it was not working, so they're going to go ahead and replace that. And again, that Vozduk is used to scrub carbon dioxide from the cabin atmosphere for these astronauts on board the station. Then our third and final Expedition 32 crew member right now, Sergei Revin, was assisting Padalka in taking some of those samples earlier today for immuno, and is also doing some cleaning work on the ventilation screens inside of the Russian Zarya module, cleaning out some of the interior panels and also a few panels on the gas liquid heat exchanger. Is also doing some routine maintenance on the Russian Electron system, which is one of the oxygen generation systems on board the International Space Station, which splits water apart and then pumps oxygen into the cabin atmosphere.
NA1SS, NA1SS, W6SRJ calling.
W6SRJ, NA1SS, region loud and clear.
Terrific. We'll turn you right over to the students right now. So if we can have the first question, please.
Does going into space change your view of everyday life? Over.
That's a good question. I've always appreciated the Earth and everything, but when you see it from space, you learn to appreciate it even more. And I'm just really privileged and honored to be up here. Over.
When did you first plan on becoming an astronaut? Over.
Well, when I was a kid, I used to watch the Apollo missions on film, and so that kind of got me, thinking I wanted to be an astronaut, but never thought it would happen until I was a school teacher and saw that NASA was looking for astronauts, so then I applied. Over.
What was your greatest challenge in becoming an astronaut? Over.
Well, I think if you ask any of us, the hardest part is really getting accepted. I know it's maybe a weak answer, but you know, you can do all the right things. Of course, you need to have the right education and some of the skills that they want, but it's still just very, very difficult to get accepted. So really, getting through the application process was probably the most difficult. Over.
How emotionally and physically intensive was your training? Over.
I think it's both emotionally and physically intensive. You know, we spent 18 months just to become astronaut candidates and be ready for a flight assignment, and then I was training for 2.5 years for this flight. So it's tiring. You're traveling all around the world, and you're studying every day. So it wears you out pretty good. Over.
How has being an astronaut affected your life? Over.
Well, the cool thing is I'm up here in space now, so that's something I wouldn't have had an opportunity to do if I hadn't become an astronaut. But other than that, you know, I'm just same old Joe living my life and going to work every day. Over.
Do you think there are gender personality differences that might affect astronauts' decisions on a mission? Over.
That's a very interesting question, and you know, I would say that there probably is, but not only gender. I think if you look at maybe racial differences, ethnic backgrounds, all of that affects how we make decisions in life, and that's why, you know, we work as a team both up here on the station and also with the group on ground, so that we have these different views to help us make smart decisions. Over.
Who or what inspired you to be an astronaut? Over.
Well, you know, I thank my grandparents and my parents for kind of sparking the imagination of coming into space, but I guess it was the first group of astronauts that went to the moon. It was pretty awesome, and it looked like something I would dream to do someday. Over.
What is most personally rewarding about you being an astronaut? Over.
Wow, it's all very rewarding, and being up here, though, I think it's just being able to be a small part of a team and being able to take part in some of the science that's going on. It's really rewarding when you see the results of the work that you do. Over.
Do you have any input on planning mission objectives? Over.
Well, we don't. We're not super involved in coming up with the objectives, but when it comes time to planning, they definitely ask our opinion. Since we're up here, we have an insight that the people on the ground might not have. And again, you know, and I hate to keep saying it, but it's really a team effort. And so they'll kind of let us know what they think they want to do, and we'll give them input, and they make modifications as necessary. Over.
How have you dealt with your toughest challenge of weightlessness? Over.
Yeah, you know, working in weightlessness is it's difficult, and it's easy to lose things. And so what I've had to do is really stay focused all day long. As long as I'm working, you really need to stay focused, and that's what really tires you out. Over.
What is the most serious physical problem that living in space poses? Over.
Well, I think that the two big ones are, muscle atrophy, your muscles getting weaker, and bone loss. But again, we're also looking at some issues with vision. I know my eyesight has changed since I've been here, but I'm a little bit older. So you look at the bones, the muscle, and I think this vision is going to be an issue, as well as the radiation that we might have if we're going further. Over.
What is the most practical scholastic route to becoming an astronaut? Over.
Well, I wish I had an easy answer for you. You know, we have a wide variety of people that have become astronauts. My background's in geology. You know, we have physicists, engineers, we have doctors. So really, I would say, you know, anything, of course, in the sciences or mathematics is required, engineering. But other than that, just pick something you really like to do. Over.
What was running through your mind when you first launched into space? Over.
I was thinking, what the heck am I doing? No, it was pretty cool, and you know, my first launch was on a shuttle a couple of years ago, and I remember looking at my crewmate Swanee sitting next to me, and we were just smiling, the thumbs up. It was just kind of unbelievable that here I was sitting on a shuttle getting ready to go into space. Over.
When you look at Earth from space, what do you think or feel about?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's so cool when you look at the Earth from up here that, depending, sometimes the music's on and I'm not thinking about anything. Other times I'm thinking about how fragile it is. So really it depends on the mood. And I bet you, when you see a beautiful sight on Earth, it's probably a very similar feeling. Over.
Have unexpected situations during your mission taught you new lessons? Over.
Well, we always have unexpected situations, and yeah, they do teach you lessons. I've learned that, again, to be focused is the #1 thing you can do up here, because things are going to happen that you're not expecting, and you need to be ready to handle them, and you also need to be flexible. Over.
How can a girl going into aerospace avoid some pitfalls you have had? Over.
Well, I think, a girl, a boy, whoever is going into aerospace, it's a tough field, and it does take a lot of work. And so, I would say, only do it if you really love it, because, you never know where you're going to go. So if you enjoy it and you work hard, I think you're gonna have smooth sailing. Over.
What examples of advanced technology have helped you live and work in space? Over.
Well, pretty much everything we have up here is, some things are old, but a lot of what we need to live every day is the advanced technology. We recycle all of our air, so we do a lot, solar energy, dealing with, small equipment. So this place is just full of advanced technology. Over.
What is the most difficult part of returning to Earth? Over.
For me, it's kind of that feeling in your head of, maybe almost like being seasick, and then getting muscle strength back. Over.
What have you learned from the Typologia experiment? Over.
You stumped me on that one. I didn't know what it was, and I found out it's a Russian experiment, so now I have a homework assignment to figure out more about it, and hopefully I can get you an answer the next time we talk. Over.
Has Robonaut 2 been helpful? Over.
Well, right now, Robonaut 2's in the kind of the practice phase, so he hasn't done anything practical for us yet, but I think we're learning a lot from watching him work. Over.
Are tortillas useful for long-duration flights? Over.
Tortillas are awesome, and actually I had some last night with my chicken. They're just, they're compact, they don't make a mess, and they taste good. Over.
Do you use ham radio for personal contacts? Over.
I haven't done too many yet, because this radio is on the Russian segment, but it's something I hope I can do more as my mission goes on. It's a neat way to communicate with people all over the world. Over.
Susie, do you have any standby questions?
How have you dealt with being away from your family? Over.
Good question. We're away from our family a lot when we train. Probably half of my time I was spent out of the country, but we're pretty lucky up here. We do have email. I do a video conference with my folks out in California every week. There's a telephone, so there's a lot we can do to stay in touch with our family. Over.
Bill, take it over, please.
Yeah, we're starting to lose it. So everybody say thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we're done. NA1SS, W6SRJ, great contact. Thank you very much. Good flight.
Great contact. Thank you, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, we have shared a moment of history. Amateur radio station W6SRJ in California made a successful radio contact with astronaut Joe Acaba, KE5DAR, aboard the International Space Station.
Right before summer started, especially across the UK, we were saying, oh, this is going to be, we're in a drought, we really need some rain. And here Mother Nature says, okay, here you go. Here's all the rain you need, drought's over. And pretty much that's how it's happened. And it's still pretty showery across those areas. And I want to show you some pictures. This is from Sweden. Across Northern Europe, it has been a very wet summer indeed. This is from Sweden. And look at that house teetering there on this side, about to just go into the river. Just an example of some of the latest summer flooding that's been happening across those areas. They're expecting even more rain throughout the day today and tomorrow. And this is a picture from Greece. What a contrast. Here we have to pour water on our heads to stay cool. Temperatures, flirting with 40 degrees over the last few days across many parts of southern Europe, Greece included. We're going to stay on the warm side across southeastern Europe. You can see even right now Budapest at about but 26, 33 in Belgrade. Athens at 33, that's not too bad. We're starting to see temperatures moderating just a little bit. And over the next couple of days, even though it's going to stay hot, I think we're going to return to values a little closer to normal as opposed to these record high heat temperatures that we've had for over a week. Marseille, it's pretty warm and toasty there, still at 30 degrees, 28 in Madrid. In contrast, across the north, we still have a lot of green on our maps here. 16 in London, 17 in Paris. You know, a little on the cloudy side. You'll get the sun peeking through the clouds every now and then. But then again, the showers return, and you can see the bands of rain that are moving around this area of low pressure here. Here's one band of rain. There's another band of rain coming into the continent right now, and then another one right over here across southern parts of England. And then these are going to keep kind of moving along here. We're not expecting any kind of severe weather, but just enough, you know, to keep things, maybe a few travel delays, to keep the roads wet. I'm not expecting to see any kind of significant flooding over these areas, but the stronger thunderstorms could be popping up here across Central and back over toward Eastern Europe. Meanwhile, in the south, nothing but sunshine over, even as we head toward the end of the week. The difference will be that the temperatures will be returning closer to average, as I was saying. So at least a little bit of an improvement there. Try to enjoy that.
Nervt das wechselhafte Wetter allmählich und auch Geschäftsleute sind ziemlich verärgert. Sommerkleidung liegt wie Blei in den Regalen, Wirte mit Außengastronomie jammern, Schwimmbäder haben kaum Gäste. Und besser wird es nicht, wie Jan Bulich berichtet.
Das stürmische Wetter in St. Peter-Ording begeistert derzeit nur die dort wettkämpfende Kitesurf-Elite. Wer hier an der Nordsee eigentlich Sommerurlaub machen wollte, zieht an, was der Koffer an warmen Sachen hergibt und sucht sich Alternativen.
Es könnte auf jeden Fall wärmer sein. Jetzt gerade haben wir vielleicht so 16 Grad oder so. Vorhin hat es halt voll geregnet.
Da kann man nicht an den Strand gehen.
Und wie findest du das?
Doof.
Bei diesem bescheidenen Wetter lassen wir jetzt mal Drachen steigen hier.
Besser wird das Wetter deutschlandweit. Hier ist München zu sehen, leider auch in den kommenden Tagen nicht. Wenig Sonne, viele Wolken, Regen und Gewitter sind an der Tagesordnung.
Dass der Sommer derzeit gefühlt so schlecht ist, liegt weniger an den Temperaturen, aber es gab zu wenig Sonne und auch zu viele Regentage. Was uns so richtig fehlt, ist aber ein stabiles Sommerhoch, wo 2-3 Wochen nur Sonne, Wärme, Heiterkeit, wie wir es aus 2003 oder 2006 kennen. Und genau dieses Sommerhoch ist auch in den nächsten 2 Wochen nicht in Sicht.
Die deutsche Tourismusbranche trotzt diesem Sommer. Die meisten Urlauber haben ihre Hotels schon vor Monaten gebucht, die wenigsten stornieren.
Man kann sich ärgern oder man kann halt einfach das Beste draus machen, sich eine Jacke anziehen und sich trotzdem halt den Strandkorb setzen. Ne?
Weil viele auf warme Kleidung statt T-Shirt und kurze Hose setzen, beginnt, wie hier in Hamburg, vielerorts verfrüht der Sommerschlussverkauf. Mit satten Rabatten auf alles, was eigentlich für einen heißen Juli gedacht war. Besitzer von Biergärten und Eisdielen verdienen nur wenig. Und hier in Kiel schneidet der Schwimmmeister vor leerem Becken mal eben die Hecke, weil statt den sonst oft mehreren tausend derzeit fast gar keine Gäste zum Baden kommen.
How it got there, that's a different discussion, of course. The 400-meter record holder and US Olympic gold medalist circled this World Heritage Site at a special dawn event marking day 55 of the torch relay. The flame will travel via the Jurassic coast before finishing the day in the town of Weymouth in the southern England area. By the time it arrives at the Olympic Stadium in East London, the flame will have traveled nearly 13,000 kilometers over 70 days. Of course, the other aspect of the Olympic story today is our top story. Up to 3,500 British Armed Forces personnel probably being drafted in quickly, because we've got 15 days to go, of course, before the Olympics kick off finally, to help out with the security operation. The private security company, which secured a multi-billion-dollar contract to provide security, is having talks with the Ministry of Defence because it appears they probably, and I stress probably, won't be able to have enough trained staff on time. Headlines in a couple of minutes.
Hier in Palermo auf Sizilien ächzen die Menschen unter der Hitze. Seit Tagen sind es 35 Grad, im Schatten wohlgemerkt. In der Sonne sind das dann weit über 40 Grad. Dazu kommt ein heißer Wind aus Afrika. In den Büros und in den Wohnungen laufen die Klimaanlagen auf Hochtouren. In der Mittagszeit ist die Stadt wie ausgestorben. Wer kann, der flüchtet da ans Meer oder auf sein Segelboot.
Ganz Paris träumt von der Sonne, denn ein Bootsausflug auf der Seine war in diesem Sommer bisher kein großes Vergnügen. In der Hauptstadt sowie im gesamten Norden Frankreichs sollte man in diesen Tagen immer seinen Regenschirm dabei haben. Einziger Trost, all jene, die am Mittelmeer Urlaub gebucht haben, die werden von sommerlichen Temperaturen verwöhnt und das wird wohl auch in den nächsten Tagen und Wochen so bleiben. während man in Paris vom Sommer weiter nur träumen kann.
Blauer Himmel über London, solche Tage kann man sich in diesem Jahr im Kalender rot anstreichen. Nach dem nassesten Juni seit Beginn der Wetteraufzeichnungen und einem bisher miserablen Juli soll nun auch der August ein Monat der Schirme werden. Das heißt, wir hatten ein verregnetes Thronjubiläum, endlos lange Regenpausen beim Tennis in Wimbledon, das Wasserchaos beim Formel-1-Rennen machte aus Silverstone Schlitterstone und nun drohen uns auch noch Olympische Regenspiele. Aber, glaubt man den Wetterfröschen, die Temperaturen sollen steigen und damit würde zumindest der Regen etwas wärmer.
Almost 6 years ago, the interstellar outcast was demoted from planet to dwarf planet. But the solar system's red-headed stepchild still has some hangers-on. Astronomers recently discovered a fifth moon in its orbit. Just a year ago, the same group of scientists discovered a fourth moon orbiting Pluto. So will this fifth moon do anything at all to upgrade poor Pluto's status? And what does the new find actually mean for astronomy? Well, Mark Showalter led the group of astronomers that found those moons, and he joins us now via Skype from Mountain View in California. Great to have you on the show. Congratulations, you're moonstruck. What does this find mean for all of us?
I'm sorry, I'm losing your connection.
What does this find mean for all of us, the fifth moon?
Well, I think it's telling another piece of the story of how the Pluto system that we know today came to exist. It appears that it all began with a very, very large impact into the original Pluto object, perhaps a billion years or less into the lifetime of the solar system. And what we're seeing now today is one very large object that formed out of that called Charon, and a whole suite of debris leftovers from that big impact.
So we're looking at pictures here, and we can see the moons around Pluto. This new one that's been discovered that you did was called P5. Tell us a little bit more about them, about Pluto, and the planetary system that we're looking at.
So what you're seeing is a Pluto in the middle was kind of lost in a lot of the analysis, because when we stare at Pluto, Pluto is a very bright object. We're basically blasting away. We're staring into a headlight and looking at very, very tiny things that are in orbit around Pluto. In fact, the object we found is 100,000 times fainter than Pluto itself.
Wow. There's going to be a mission to Pluto in 2015, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
New Horizons has been on its way to Pluto, and it's getting there in just 3 years. We're very excited about that. It will be the first close-up views of the system, but even in the time as we wait for New Horizons to get there, we keep finding new things that make this an even more interesting destination.
Why was Pluto demoted again?
I was not a part of that vote, I'll say that, but it is a very small body. And, you know, some people think it was demoted. I just say it's a small body, it's a small planet, so let's call it a dwarf planet. It's just a name. No matter what you call it, everyone agrees it's an interesting place to go and look.
And this is a big success for the Hubble telescope too, right?
It is indeed. It's a very small object that we had to do a lot of work to find.
Thank you so much, Mark Showalter, who led the group of astronomers that found the fifth moon on Pluto. He also found the fourth one, and maybe you'll find the sixth one too. Good luck. Thanks.
Still looking.
keep on looking.
Well, keeping our eyes on the skies, Mara Ramos is here with at the World Weather Center with more on her outlook and what she has found.
You know what? I wanted to share these pictures with you guys, Monita, because I was reading this really interesting article from NASA. And it's not a new article, it just really caught my eye because of this picture right here. Let me go ahead and show you. This right here behind me, Monita, is a picture of the Milky Way. And this is right outside Abu Dhabi. Lewis took this picture, and he says that he had a hard time actually even in the desert near Abu Dhabi to be able to take this picture because the lights are just so bright. And this is a recent picture that was taken, and it got me to thinking how many people really will never get to see the Milky Way, because most of us live in big cities. There's too much light, and we can't really just look up and see the night sky and see the stars, let alone something like this, like the Milky Way. And it got me to thinking that my own kids have never seen it. And I saw it when I was a little kid, but, you know, since I've lived in big cities like Atlanta, you know, it's almost impossible. And this is another picture. I love this one from the Dominican Republic. This one is from his backyard. Misael took this picture, and I absolutely love it as well. See how many stars you can see. And so I just kind of wanted to get people thinking about that, how bright the lights are. And one of the things that NASA was saying is there is so much light pollution, and it's not just the lights that are up in this, that are you know, in the cities like what you're looking at right over here, but also because there's so much airborne pollution, a lot of that light actually reflects back to Earth, and it makes it harder and harder to see those things. So they're calling it almost an astronomer's nightmare. Since you had that segment about Pluto, it gets, you know, we have better telescopes to be able to see in the far sky, but it becomes more difficult for those of us just here on the ground to be able to look up. And what you're looking at here is an amazing picture, and you've probably seen this before, of the lights and how that looks from space, and then this composite picture of the world. Of course, there's Europe and Africa, here's the US, and then even in the Dominican Republic where that picture was taken, look how bright you can see the Caribbean islands there, and of course here, South America. I bet you can see 1,000,000 stars from the Amazon jungle. So I just wanted to share that with you. And if you have pictures to share, go to ireport.com and be sure to send them to us here, whether it's weather, news, or of course, if you're just happened to be looking at the sky.
Each episode is downloaded by an average of 3.9 million users, making its illegal audience as large as its legitimate one. Dan Simon has more.
Will you marry me?
Despite a plethora of ways to watch TV on a tablet, phone,
I'm gonna get the coffee,
or computer, you still need an old-fashioned cable or satellite subscription to watch certain hit shows like the Game of Thrones on HBO. Well, that led to a big fan of the show to create this, a website called Take My Money HBO. It's an online petition to try to convince the cable channel to offer up internet-only subscriptions to its popular HBO Go service.
HBO Go, the streaming service that brings you the entire HBO universe at your fingertips.
Cable and satellite would be bypassed entirely. The site says, we pirate Game of Thrones, we use our friend's HBO Go login to watch True Blood. Please, HBO, offer a standalone HBO Go streaming service and take my money.
All of this raises a compelling question. If the technology is available, why won't HBO allow fans to pay separately for the service who want it? In other words, why won't HBO take their money?
Technically, HBO could make this happen. They could make HBO Go a standalone service with the flip of a switch. But right now, they have no financial motivation to do that.
Melissa Grego is executive editor for broadcasting and cable. She says channels like HBO don't have the infrastructure in place to offer and market a standalone internet service. But the bigger problem? The partnerships with cable and satellite companies who heavily promote and reap in substantial profits for the channel. Those relationships, she says, are too important to undermine.
The minute they start offering HBO as a standalone product without the need of a cable subscription, you know, you get potentially into trouble with the Comcasts and the Time Warner Cables of the world.
HBO is owned by CNN's parent company, Time Warner. A channel spokesman told us, we're greatly flattered by the attention. For now, however, there is no economic upside to offering a standalone HBO Go service. The notion of a la carte channels is picking up steam now that people have tons of different ways of viewing content. The problem, no one has been able to figure out the business model.
If you look at a company like Apple, with all the juice in the world, they still haven't been able to crack that code and say, let's get everything out of the vaults in Hollywood and make it available, let's say on a reasonably priced monthly pass, 20, 25 bucks a month, click and watch anything you want. That would completely change the industry.
The question is whether those changes would reduce earnings for Hollywood. Until it's clear that cutting the cord wouldn't hurt their bottom line, campaigns like this may get attention, but will probably go nowhere. Dan Simon, CNN, San Francisco.
When their plane was hit by severe turbulence. As John Zarella reports, experiences like these have contributed to the growing popularity of websites that can predict air turbulence right around the world.
Thunderstorms. In the summertime, they are particularly hard to avoid. And when you're flying, the turbulence they cause can make for a bumpy, choke the armrest, frightening flight. Late Tuesday was just such a moment. Passengers on board an American Airlines flight from Aruba coming into Miami thought it was over.
I never felt it, something like that in the past. Basically, with the noise and the bumps, you just think that it's going down.
We were going to die. It was scary.
About a dozen people suffered minor injuries. 2 flight attendants and a passenger were taken to a local hospital, treated and released. 8-year-old Javier Silva was in the bathroom when the plane started shaking.
When I closed the door, the airplane started jumping around, and I hit myself in the knee.
The American flight was about 30 minutes outside of Miami Tuesday afternoon, beginning its initial descent when it encountered what meteorologists say was severe turbulence. The violent shaking lasted about 15 seconds. According to airline officials, there was nothing on radar to indicate turbulence in the area.
It is these cells right here where you see the red that you're going to see the planes trying to avoid.
Pablo Santos says he's not surprised nothing was indicated on radar. Santos, the National Weather Service meteorologist in charge of the South Florida office, says the turbulence caused by thunderstorms can be experienced miles away from the storm.
Planes do not fly through thunderstorms. You normally see them being routed around thunderstorms, but sometimes thunderstorms, especially very strong thunderstorms, they can disrupt the airflow for 10, 20 miles away from the thunderstorms.
Very simply, turbulence is a disturbance in the normal flow of the air. With their rising and sinking air, thunderstorms can really mess up the atmosphere. So what's the best time to fly to avoid turbulence?
I would tell them that the best time of the day to fly is early morning.
7 years ago, Peter Murray created turbulenceforecast.com. Today, Murray's site gets 35,000 visitors a month. They can view maps that display the potential for turbulence anywhere in the world, nearly real time.
Some of the maps update every 20 minutes. Most of them update every hour.
According to the FAA, there have been 64 serious injuries from turbulence incidents in the past 6 years. The FAA says 2 of 3 passengers who died in turbulence-related events since 1980 were not wearing seatbelts, even though the seatbelt sign was illuminated. John Zarella, CNN, Miami.
Welcome back. Now, we have heard many versions of the American national anthem. From amateurs to professionals, they've all belted out the tune with varying degrees of success. So what does it take to deliver a stellar performance? Well, Jeannie Bose looks at some of the less than subtle tricks adopted by those in the limelight.
Oh, say, can you see?
So far, so good. Country star Luke Bryan was singing the anthem at the All-Star game when right before he got to the ramparts part, he oh so subtly glanced at his hand.
Through the perilous fight.
Some of Bryan's fans suggested he was just looking at his watch so he'd be on time for the stealth bomber flyby. But others suspected a star-spangled cheat sheet. As one sports commentator tweeted, Luke Bryan sings the national anthem the way I used to take geometry tests. Oh, say, can you see the lyrics written on me? Bryan definitely didn't want to end up like Christina Aguilera at the Super Bowl, getting the words wrong. We've written the right ones on the screen. By the dawn's early light, what was so gallantly streaming over Twitter was Luke Bryan's heartfelt and charming confession. I had a few key words written down to ensure myself that I wouldn't mess up. I just wanted to do my best. I promise it was from the heart. The last key words we remember written on someone's hand were energy, tax cuts, and lift American spirits on Sarah Palin's palm.
We've got to start reining in the spending. We have got to jumpstart these energy projects.
Luke Bryan had plenty of energy, and at least he didn't come to a full stop like Michael Bolton. On the bright side, by looking at his hand, Michael Bolton got an extra 1.6 million views on YouTube. Watching stars sing the Star-Spangled Banner is a little like watching a tightrope walker cross Niagara Falls. We wait for a stumble. Whatever you do, don't look down. Ginny Mo, CNN. New York.
It's such a painful moment. Now, we are about 2 weeks away from the opening ceremony in London, but there already been an Olympic victory of sorts. Now, no gold medal, though the Golden Arches were indeed involved. Now, British media report that Olympic workers had grown frustrated with McDonald's monopoly on French fries. Evidently, its sponsorship gives McDonald's sole rights to sell them, the only exclusion being fish and chips. The key word here, and. So no chips without the fish. Now, rules are now said to be relaxed for workers, but not for spectators. And that is Newsstream, but the news continues at CNN. World Business Today is next.
Wir sind jetzt 400 Meter über London. Im Hintergrund kann man die Tower Bridge erkennen. Von hier aus sind es nur 4 Flugminuten bis ins Herz von Olympia. Und genau da fliegen wir jetzt hin. Wir erreichen jetzt das Olympiastadion. Es fasst 80.000 Zuschauer. Wir dürfen dieses Stadion nicht überfliegen. Nicht etwa aus Sicherheitsgründen, aber in diesen Tagen laufen dort die Proben für die Eröffnungs- und die Schlussfeier. Und die gelten hier als Staatsgeheimnis. Das Zentrum der Spiele ist hier der Olympiapark, 2,5 Quadratkilometer groß. Neben dem Olympiastadion sind hier 5 weitere Wettkampforte. Dort unten das futuristische Gebäude, quasi fertig zum Abheben mit den Flügeln. Das ist die Schwimmhalle. In direkter Nachbarschaft erkennen wir das Velodrom, das Stadion für die Radsportler. Und daneben ein echter Hingucker, was so aussieht wie eine Riesenmatratze. Das ist die Basketballarena. Diese Halle hat schon eine zweite Olympianominierung sicher. Sie wird auch 2016 bei den Spielen in Rio aufgebaut. London 2012, das sollen die Spiele der Nachhaltigkeit werden. Im Unterschied zu anderen Olympiametropolen wie Peking oder Athen sollen die Wettkampfstätten hier nicht verfallen, sondern weiter genutzt, abgebaut oder verkauft werden. Apropos verkauft, direkt unter uns sehen wir nun das Olympische Dorf, das Zuhause für 17.000 Athleten. Nach den Spielen entsteht dort ein Wohnpark mit 2.900 Eigentumswohnungen. Viele Apartments wurden bereits an den Mann gebracht. Längst nicht alle hier freuen sich auf Olympia. Wir fliegen jetzt mal ein paar Kilometer Themse abwärts. Auf den Dächern dieser Apartment-Hochhäuser bereitet das Militär in diesen Tagen den Aufbau einer Batterie Luftabwehrraketen vor. Sie sollen bei Olympia dem Schutz vor möglichen Terroranschlägen dienen. Die Bewohner sind empört, scheiterten aber mit ihrer Klage vor Gericht. 23.000 Polizisten und Soldaten sollen das Sportfest der Superlative schützen. Die Politiker hier unten in Westminster erhoffen sich langfristig einen Schub für den Tourismus, aber zunächst einmal gilt es, die Olympiabegeisterung in den Herzen der Briten zu wecken.
Good morning and welcome to today's International Space Station Update Hour. You're joining us here inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where the Orbit 2 team is currently on console, monitoring all of their respective systems on board this orbiting laboratory. Today's team is being led by Flight Director Courtney McMillan there on the right. Joining her at the Capcom position is Anna Fisher, serving as the communication link between controllers here on the ground and the astronauts up in space. And those astronauts right now are the crew of Expedition 32, being led by Russian cosmonaut Gennady Padalka there in the middle, currently on his 4th flight, his 3rd of which on the International Space Station. To the left is another Russian cosmonaut, Sergei Revin, a rookie, on board the station on his 1st space flight. And there on the right is NASA astronaut Joe Acaba, veteran of 1 shuttle mission STS-119, on his 2nd flight. Getting right into the cruise day, here we can see Joe Acaba working inside the International Space Station. He was busy doing some work inside of the ATV cargo transfer vehicle. All 3 of our astronauts on board have been doing that throughout their day today. Acaba was installing a few StoaTrack adapters inside of that unmanned cargo craft to allow for some trash to be transferred over to it in order to make room for some items that will be coming up on the HTV transfer vehicle, the Japanese unmanned cargo craft, which will be launching a little bit later this month. Aside from that, Acaba is also doing some work today with the BASS experiment, or the burning and suppression of solids, which burns different fuel samples in that microgravity environment to study how flame reacts and the best way to suppress those flames. You can see Acaba here working with the microgravity science glove box on that a little bit earlier today. Aside from that, he was doing some routine cleaning on the station's clean bench, checking its relief valve and a few of the microscope controls, and also doing another battery swap today on the station's Earth Cam, which he set up earlier this week on Monday for students around the country to control via the internet to take different pictures of different geological features around the planet. Moving on, Commander Padaka was also again working with that ATV cargo vehicle, doing some cargo transfer operations. He's also doing some routine cleaning and filter replacements on the station's Zarya module and on the Russian segment. He'll be cleaning out a few of the dust collectors and changing out some filters to ensure that the astronauts' breathing air is being cleaned appropriately to make sure their atmosphere is safe for human habitation. Aside from that, he'll also be doing some monthly maintenance work on the TVIS, or the treadmill with vibration, isolation, and stabilization. One of a suite of exercise devices on board the station for these astronauts to keep their bodies in top shape as they look to combat the negative effects of weightlessness. You can see the TVIS here. It's basically a treadmill with a harness on it that keeps the astronauts from floating away and actually puts some force down on them so they can run and keep their cardiovascular health up, and also put some pressure on the bones in their legs to help combat any of the loss in bone density that they're prone to. Then our third Expedition 32 crew member, Russian cosmonaut Sergei Revin, started off his day early today with taking some blood and saliva samples for the Russian immuno test. This is something that Commander Padaka was doing yesterday. It looks to track the changes in stress and how it affects the human immune system, and has some direct implications for people down here on Earth. He'll be taking those saliva and blood samples and also urine samples and taking a few stress tests throughout the day. And all that will be tracked by people down here on the ground. He's also working with the Russian relaxation experiment, doing some hardware setup and running a few test runs. That relaxation experiment looks to determine the effects of propulsion system exhausts on the Earth's upper atmosphere, and then different optically sensitive surfaces on board the International Space Station, such as windows, equipment lenses, and solar array panels.
Mr. Chairman.
Gotta be discreet. As soon as the Michael figures out exactly what stops the car, he's just gonna want to leave too.
Наверное, пойди оттуда, возьми контролом, или отсюда возьми панораму, оттуда.
Peggy Whitson, Chief of the Astronaut Office. Peggy, 12 years ago today, the Zvezda service module was launched from a launch pad several miles from where we're standing at this moment. That began the most serious aspect of the assembly of the space station. In a few days, launch of the next crew to perpetuate the work up there. Your thoughts on how far we've come over the past 12 years from service module launch to the upcoming launch of Sunny and Aki and Yuri?
Well, it's actually huge, the number of accomplishments that have occurred over that time frame. Building the structure of the International Space Station is hard to even describe and understand, but you know, to have so many modules the sizes of school buses connected together on orbit, and truss assemblies longer than a football field, and solar arrays 239 feet each, and 4 pair. It's just an amazing feat that all of this has been constructed on orbit. And now that we have all these laboratories up there, we're continuing the next phase of exploration with scientific exploration, looking at various different physical and biological sciences on board the International Space Station.
Sunny and Aki, final days before launch, how are they doing? What's their level of preparation and their level of, shall we say, ready to get on with this flight?
Oh, they're absolutely ready. They're very gung-ho. This crew is a very special crew, very outgoing and gregarious crew, and I think folks on the ground will have fun watching them in addition to them having fun on orbit. They've got a fantastically busy mission ahead of them. They are looking toward 9 visiting vehicles during the time that they're up on board the space station, which is really a lot of coming and going, and it's going to take a lot of choreography by the ground teams and the crews on orbit to make this all happen. And it'll be a very challenging and exciting time for them.
And speaking of that in a little more specificity, in a 6-week period after docking, there are 9 visiting vehicle dockings, undockings, redockings, 2 spacewalks, all in that time frame. Almost unprecedented volume of activity. How are they going to handle all that?
Well, it'll require a lot of choreography to get it all handled, and I think that our teams on the ground have a plan, and I know our crews are ready to implement on orbit.
And Peggy, one final question. 2 months ago, we were back here for Joe Akaba's launch. 2 months later, another Soyuz vehicle behind you, ready to be hoisted vertically for launch on Sunday. An almost amazing piece of activity here in Baikonur as well.
Yeah, it has been. I was here 2 weeks ago for a landing for Don Pettit and Andre Kuiper's landing. And so it's just been a lot of activity going on here in Kazakhstan, as well as all over the world, and all the control centers that participate in the International Space Station. So it's an exciting time.
Janet Kavandi, Director of Flight Crew Operations at the Johnson Space Center. Janet, scarcely 2 months after Joe Akaba launched to the International Space Station, another Soyuz on the pad behind you. Sunny Williams and Aki Hoshide, along with Yuri Malenchenko, ready to go on Sunday. What is your your thoughts on their level of preparedness for launch and the busy time that lies ahead.
Well, of course, we have a pretty accomplished crew. They're very ready to go. They've most of them been there before, so this won't be anything new for these guys. So they're very anxious, ready to go. They know there's a lot of work up there to be done. It's not a place you can just kick back and relax. There's so much science to be done. There's a lot of payload operations up there that they have to be working on when they get there. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be maintained all the time on the space station. So they're ready for it, and they're in a good mood and ready to go.
In the particular case of this crew, they hit the ground running literally at the moment of hatch opening.
Right.
From the time of launch until the beginning of August, 9 visiting vehicle operations, dockings, undockings, redockings, plus 2 EVAs at the end of August, all this within about a 6-week period. How can the crew bite off this much right off the bat?
Well, that's why we pick such good people, right, for these things. We interview a lot of people. That we've gone through over 6,000 applications so far for the next selection. So we try to pick the best possible people we can who are very enthusiastic and energetic and really know when a big job has to be done, they're ready for it. So these guys prepare for, of course, years in advance of a launch. They know what to expect. They know they're going to have a lot to be doing, and it's just a mental mindset. You have to be prepared mentally. You have to know that you're going to hit the ground running. You don't have time to sit and really reflect on where you are. And these guys, like I said, are professionals, have done this before, so they know what they're up against. They know how to, work their time and their rest so that they're always prepared and ready to go for everything that they're expecting.
We're coming up on 12 years of permanent human occupancy of the International Space Station, from a few fledgling modules to the city in the sky that it is today. What are your thoughts? You went to the Mir Space Station, you went to the International Space Station during assembly. Your thoughts on where it has come from in the past decade and 2 years?
Yeah, it's actually just quite incredible. I mean, just from my first experience seeing Mir and what an incredible space station that was, then to be able to go back and go to the International Space Station during its construction phase, and wishing so much that you could share in person what it feels like to approach a space station and how huge it has become and how complex it is, and what a tribute to humanity that we've been able to construct something so large and complex in space in a cooperative manner the way we have. It's just really impressive and a tribute to our race, I think. It's just an incredible accomplishment. So it's humbling. You're very proud to be part of it, and like I said, the crews are up there ready to do what needs to be done, and very happy to be a part of it.
Музей был, батюшку видел, программу выполнил. Фотокамера, видеокамера. Готово. Кому-то на фоне ракеты батарейки. Кого есть? Как? Кто? Как бы выстрелил, да? Да, коллеги, вопрос. Нормально, всем удобно?
Colleagues, questions, please. Can you see?
Что провели сегодня?
So what happened today? We sprinkled holy water on the Soyuz vehicle to ensure a comfortable, successful flight for the crew members. All the work that has been done to assemble this rocket has been blessed. The rocket is blessed, the journey is blessed, and we will pray for them as they fly in space so that God supports them. Are you going to see the crew members today? Yes, definitely. I will. As they walk to their bus, we will pray for them and bless them. What is your name? My name is Sergey. Any activity that you do has to be blessed by God and supported by the Lord. And this work is special because it gives hope to people. It strengthens their faith because whatever happens, even when you fly on the airplane or if you're on the train or in a car, you can stop at any time, but still you're not sure if you will reach your destination. But with space, all you can do is pray and hope. Also, tabloids like to write that this is too expensive to bless a rocket. Well, no, the Orthodox Church does not charge anything to bless the rocket. This is all completely voluntary. We do this on our own time. We heard the number 150,000. No, it is not true. Okay, thank you very much. God bless you.
Сегодня осталось одно из основных действий – это утвердить.
We still have one thing that we need to do is to confirm the crews, and so I would like to present you Sergei Krikolov, who will suggest crew members. The medical commission admits the flight crew due to health reasons for flight. We reviewed the results of their training and came to the conclusion that ISS 3233 crews are prepared for flight on Soyuz TM-05. They're prepared to work on board of the Russian segment of the ISS. The pre-flight training program has been completed in full, and we propose confirming the prime crew, including the following crew members: Commander Yuri Malenchenko, Flight Engineer Sanita Williams, and Flight Engineer 2, Akihiko Hashida. Backup crew: Commander Roman Romanenko, Flight Engineer Chris Hadfield, Flight Engineer 2 Thomas Mashburn. That completes my report. Thank you. Questions for Sergei Konstantinovich? Michael Thomas Safradini, please.
Sunny, Yuri, Aki, it's good to see you guys. You've completed all your training. You're an experienced crew, and you're launching into a very ambitious mission.
Сани, Юрий, Аки, очень рад вас видеть. Вы очень экипаж, который знающий экипаж, очень опытный экипаж, и осталось до вашего полета всего лишь немного времени.
And as you know, your launch date is the 37th anniversary of the Apollo-Soyuz test project launch. And I think it's most fitting that the three of you are launched to the ISS that was basically started with that flight.
И в день вашего запуска мы будем отмечать 37-летие полета «Союз-Аполлон». И я считаю, что это очень символично, что именно так и произошло.
So good luck and Godspeed.
Поэтому удачи вам и всего самого наилучшего.
Thank you.
Спасибо. Ребята, еще раз вам успехов.
Good luck to you guys again. We believe in you. We support you, but we are confident that your flight will be successful. Thank you.
Уважаемые друзья,
Dear friends,
в соответствии с программой полетов
in accordance to the flight program to the International Space Station, on July 15, 2012, at 8:40 local time, 6:40 Moscow time, there was a launch scheduled for the transport vehicle Soyuz TMA for expedition 32, 33 on board. A few minutes ago, the State Commission has finished its meeting where they confirmed the prime and backup crew. Allow me to introduce them. Soyuz commander and flight engineer for the ISS, Yuri Malenchenko, Sanita Williams, representing NASA, the United States, flight engineer 2 of Soyuz and flight engineer for the ISS, Akihiko Hashida, JAXA, Japan, backup crew commander of Soyuz and flight engineer for the ISS, Roman Romanenko, flight engineer for Soyuz and flight engineer for the ISS, Chris Hadfield, Canadian Space Agency, flight engineer 2 of Soyuz and flight engineer of the station, Thomas Mashburn, NASA, United States. Please ask your questions and specifically point out who you're addressing your questions to.
Телеканал «Россия-1», программа «Вести». Вопрос.
Vesti television program, television channel 1 of Russia. First, my question is for Mr. Malenchenko. Congratulations on your upcoming flight. And what are you planning to do first thing once you arrive on board of the ISS? Are you planning a celebration of some sort? Thank you very much for your congratulations. Our first day upon arriving to the ISS, once we arrive, we have a lot of work scheduled that we will need to accomplish, and our work day during the docking day is a very long one, usually 16 or 17 hours. I am looking forward to seeing the crew that is working on board at this time. We will be sending greetings from the Earth to them, and we will give them a big hug. Okay, thank you very much. Next question. Dear crews, allow me to introduce you, to congratulate you with the upcoming flight. Wish you the best. And for the commander, specifically for Expedition 33, I would like to send this souvenir. You will open it yourself. I will give it to the crew surgeon. I'm not going to step in myself. Thank you very much. Next question.
1問だけ日本語の質問、日本語の答えが OK だということなのでお伺いいたしますが、いよいよ打ち上げがあさってに迫ってきました。そして現在の意気込みや体調などはいかがですか。そして、4ヶ月の長期滞在中、これだけは注目してほしいとか、あるいはこんな星出彰彦を見てほしいとか、そういうようなこだわりのアピールポイントみたいなのがありましたら、ぜひ聞かせてください。
はい、日本の皆さん、今、いろいろ応援していただいてありがとうございます。まずは御礼申し上げます。この、2週間ほど、バイコヌールで、準備作業をしてきましたけども、クルーみんな、バックアップクルーも含めてですね、みんなリラックスして、この2週間を過ごすことができました。で、今日の、認定されてですね、晴れて、宇宙機の方も準備万端と、クルーも準備万端と。いうことで、リラックスして打ち上げに臨めるというふうに考えます。それから、滞在中の、注目していただきたいことですけど、一番大きいのはそうですね、いろんな実験、作業いろいろありますけれども、やはり地上も含めた、チームで軌道上のチーム、それから地上のチームで仕事をしているんだというところをぜひ見ていただきたいなというふうに思います。Sorry, English kita? Sorry. So first question was how we feel right now, and I answered after 2 weeks in Baikonur, we're all very relaxed, including the backup crews, and we're ready for launch, and not just us, but the vehicle itself is ready And the second question, oh, извини.
Первый вопрос, значит, экипажу. Что вы чувствуете сейчас перед стартом? Ответ. После 2 недель подготовки на Байконуре экипаж чувствует себя достаточно отдохнувшим. Мы готовы к старту. Наш корабль также готов. Все в порядке.
And the second question was what I would like to people to see during our stay, and my answer was I'd like to see people to see. We're going to do a lot of experiments, a lot of tasks on board, just various things. But the most important thing is that we're working together as a team, not just the team on orbit, but the team on the ground as well. So it's a big team that we're working together.
И второй вопрос был, как мы будем вместе работать на станции с теми людьми, которые будут в составе экипажа. Ответ, что у нас большая научная программа, у нас запланировано большое количество экспериментов, у нас прекрасный экипаж, прекрасная команда, и мы с нетерпением ждем работы на Международной космической станции.
Спасибо. Следующий вопрос.
Thank you. Next question, please. Mahmoud Kanbar, Russia Today television channel. My question is for Yuri. What work will you be performing on board of the SS? What is your scientific program? You're planning an extravehicular activity as well. Can you talk more about it? For our expedition, we have a big program scheduled, but it's a standard program. For the Russian segment, we have a scientific program that includes about 40 scientific experiments covering various research fields. We will also have a lot of dynamic operations such as docking, undocking, manned vehicles arriving as well as cargo vehicles arriving. We will have an extravehicular activity as well. The spacewalk will last about 7 hours. There will be several tasks that we will accomplish during the spacewalk, such as working with scientific experiments outside of the station, reconfiguring systems, and launching a small artificial satellite. We are looking forward to this work. It's going to be busy, but it's going to be interesting, and I am confident that it will all work out great. Thank you. Hello, Anna, Roscosmos Television Studio. First question is for Yuri. You have flown in space already, and you had a female crew member as well in your crew. Was this your personal request, or why do you keep having women in your crews? And my question is for Roman. How are you planning to prepare for your flight as a prime crew? Yes, it just happened that in every flight I have female crew members. I don't know why it happened, but that's the way it worked out. And as I mentioned earlier, we do not distinguish between males and females in our crew members. I am happy because what matters to me is that all members of all my crews have been great individuals, and even during my previous flight when we were returning in a capsule, we had 2 women at the same time, which was the first time in history ever. But despite that fact, everything went well. It was all good, and there were no difficulties. So I'm very happy. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now, Roman, please. Thank you for your question. Before our launch, until our launch, we have about 5 months. So we will continue preparing for our flight as the prime crew, which is scheduled for December. We will be training here in Russia. We will have joint simulations here in Russia and several sessions in the United States where we will be participating in training with 2 other crews. The crew that will be we will be joining, and the crew that will join us eventually. We will practice our joint work in case of depressurization or a fire on board, and so we will continue working as we have been so far. Thank you very much. Next question.
Can I just say, Sonny, the haircut looks really good. I saw you got it cut on Twitter. We were worried, but it looks good, the hair. I was wondering, going to work in the morning, what is the more stressful commute, going to the office in Houston traffic or going to your other office strapped to a rocket?
Well, first of all, thank you for the comment on my hair. It was a little shocking when I saw how short it was, but I'm getting used to it, and it's going to look longer when I'm in space. Your question about what's a little bit more stressful, I would definitely say going to work in Houston is more stressful than the 8-minute rocket ride. The traffic in Houston, like I think everybody knows, is pretty horrible, and sometimes just a 5-mile commute can take about 15 or 20 minutes. And we'll be already in the rocket, resting, getting our final preparations done before we launch. And like I mentioned, it's only an 8-minute ride. There's no traffic jam on the way, and we'll be in space before we know it.
Thank you. Hello, RIA Novosti, Alexei Kislyak. I have two questions for the Prime crew. First of all, your call sign is Agat, which means the name of a gemstone in Russian. Who selected it? And my second question is, what are you planning to do in your spare time on board of the ISS? Agat is our call sign, and usually what happens is that the Soyuz commander picks the call sign. It is done when the commander prepares for his first flight. So I probably selected that call sign back in 1993 when I was preparing for my first flight. At that time, there was a list of call signs that were available. There were the names of gemstones and stars there, and I saw this word, which means a semi-precious stone, and so I picked it.
So the second question was about free time. Like Yuri mentioned already, we're going to be pretty busy as soon as we get there with HTV, EVAs, progress, ATV, undocking.
Как уже Юрий упомянул, у нас будет много работы на борту. Прилетает грузовой корабль HTV, ATV. Также у нас запланированы стыковки грузовых кораблей прогрессов, различные расстыковки.
So I promise we will not be bored.
И я обещаю, скучно нам не будет.
But I know one thing that all of us have not seen yet is the cupola. So I think we'll probably be spending some of our spare time looking out the windows in the cupola.
И никто из членов нашего экипажа еще не видели модуль купол, поэтому я думаю, что свое свободное время, если оно у нас будет, мы будем проводить именно там, наслаждаясь различными видами Земли.
And of course, a very significant event is happening while we're up there is the Olympics. So hopefully we'll be getting a little bit of coverage of the Olympics.
И также наиболее значимое событие, которое состоится во время, когда мы будем на Международной космической станции, это Олимпийские игры. Поэтому мы тоже будем наблюдать за ходом проведения этих игр.
And just one thought about the Olympics. I think the International Space Station and the Olympics are very similar in that they bring together countries from all over the world. They work together, they compete, and they bring out the best of each other.
И мне кажется, что между Международной космической станцией и Олимпийскими играми существует много общего. Это то, что заставляет людей из различных стран собираться вместе, работать вместе, и это часть тоже нашего сотрудничества.
Спасибо. Получилось, что Саня за всех.
Thank you. Looks like Sunny answered for everybody.
Rob Navius with NASA Television. I have a question and a follow-up for Sunny. You touched on this before, just a bit of elaboration if you would. You actually have 9 visiting vehicle operations and 2 spacewalks, 1 Russian, 1 US, in the first 7 weeks that you and your crew are aboard the station. How daunting a task is that going to be to pull off?
As we say here in Russian, shag za shagom. So one thing after another. First of all is start and let us get up to the space station and dock. And then we'll be concentrating on the next thing, and then the next thing, and we'll see how it all goes.
Прежде всего, по-русски скажу, шаг за шагом. То есть сначала мы стартуем, мы прилетаем, стыкуемся с космической станцией, и дальше уже готовимся к выполнению следующей задачи. И так вот последовательно мы будем выполнять каждую из поставленных операций.
We've trained for all of these events. We're ready for them as they occur. I think we're going to all need a little refresher as they get closer, but we'll be ready to tackle them. And I think we've got a great crew, along with the crew that's on board right now, to fulfill all of those events.
Мы длительное время готовились по каждой из поставленных задач, поэтому мы готовы к выполнению. И у нас очень опытный экипаж очень опытный на борту, поэтому мы справимся с поставленными задачами.
And one more, Sunny. You and your crew will be launching on the 37th anniversary of Apollo-Soyuz, docking on the 37th anniversary of that famous handshake in space between Tom Stafford and Alexei Leonov. How significant was that event for you and your crew as the vanguard for the international cooperation we see enacted here today?
I think you know our start was supposed to be a couple months ago, but it got delayed till this date.
Возможно, да, вы в курсе, что наш старт был запланирован еще 2 месяца назад, должен был состояться, но его перенесли, отложили на 2 месяца, поэтому вот мы летим сейчас.
So I think things happen for fate.
И я думаю, это не случайно.
We are really honored to be launching on the same day that Apollo-Soyuz launched and docking on the same day that they docked.
Для нас это действительно большая честь, то, что мы стартуем в 37-ю годовщину запуска Союза Аполлона, и мы стыкуемся тоже в 37-ю годовщину стыковки кораблей Союза и Аполлона.
I think that was the start of our international friendship and working together in the space program, and we've come a long way.
И для нас это будет стартом к нашему международному сотрудничеству, нашей дружбе.
And so we're very thankful to those who have come before us and laid this path that we're going to follow in a couple days, in a day and a half or so.
И я очень благодарна всем тем людям, которые до нас летали на Международную космическую станцию, летят после нас через день-два.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much.
RT question for Sanita. You are the first woman who was in the out of the space station so a long time. So what did you feel, and what do you feel when you see the Earth, our Earth, from the space?
И вопрос опять-таки для Саниты Уильямс. Санита, вы были первой женщиной, которая совершила выход в открытый космос. Скажите, пожалуйста, что вы при этом чувствовали и что вы чувствовали, наблюдая Землю из космоса?
Well, I was very lucky to be able to do 4 spacewalks on my first mission, and hopefully we'll get to do a spacewalk during this mission as well.
Мне действительно очень повезло, потому что я выполнила 4 выхода в открытый космос во время своего первого полета. И я надеюсь, что мне предстоит выполнить еще один выход в открытый космос в моем предстоящем полете.
A lot of people ask if you're scared when you go what we call out the door. And luckily it was nighttime, so I really couldn't see a lot when I went out the door the first time.
И я бы хотела сказать, что некоторые люди, им, конечно, страшно, когда они делают выход в открытый космос. Я уже делала выход в открытый космос, и у меня тогда не было много времени, чтобы рассмотреть Землю. Сейчас я с нетерпением жду этого.
But as the sun came up and I was able to see the beautiful Earth below me flying by, I held on a little tighter, but I couldn't help but feel how beautiful our planet is.
И я видела, как встает солнце за горизонта, я видела, насколько прекрасна Земля в лучах солнца. Но мне приходилось усердно работать, мне не было времени, чтобы наблюдать за этими прекрасными видами.
And what's really nice about doing a spacewalk is you can turn your head essentially in any direction, so you can see out into the cosmos, you can look back at Earth, you can look at the sunrise, the sunset, you can turn any way you want to turn, which you can't do when you're just looking out of a window.
И что самое приятное в выходе в открытый космос, это то, что ты можешь поворачивать голову куда хочешь, в любом направлении. То есть ты можешь смотреть на Землю, ты можешь смотреть в космос, любоваться различными видами. Потому что то, когда ты смотришь в иллюминатор, это только один вид. А здесь у нас больше возможностей.
absolutely beautiful. So I'm looking forward to hopefully doing that one more time.
Это очень красиво, и я с нетерпением жду, чтобы это повторилось снова.
Спасибо большое. Ну, у нас...
Thank you very much. The 3-question limit for Sunny has been reached, so we are moving on to other crew members. Okay, Vyacheslav Ivanov, Interfax, I have a question for the commander. Will the crew be helping ground services to watch the consequences of floodings in Kuban and in Japan? And do you have enough technical means to support this activity? Thank you.
Ну, в случае каких-то любых видов экологических
In case of any natural disasters, every time, every crew that is on board of the ISS monitors the situation. We always perform
большую серию снимков
high-def imagery with high resolution so that we can downlink the images and have detailed information in real time on the ground. That allows the services that are dealing with the situation to have this accurate information. These images allow to see the details of the processes and tendencies and that are happening, and also it helps understand the causes of different events, and in the future use this data to prevent similar disasters. Thank you.
Спасибо. Следующий вопрос.
Next question.
CBC Canada. My question is for Mr. Hadfield. You're seeing right there at the end of the table your colleagues who are going to have the chance of going up in space in a couple of days. What's your feeling now? You've been training for this mission as well, just in case you have to replace somebody. Now you have to, on Sunday, something new starts for you, new training, everything. So are these coming months going to be the longest days because you're going to be eagerly waiting for your turn to get there? Or is it going to be too short because you have so much to do to get ready? And also, if you can just answer in French afterwards as well. Thanks.
Вопрос, значит, канадского телевидения для Криса Хатфилда. Крис, сейчас вы находитесь в составе дублирующего экипажа, вы наблюдаете за тем, как готовятся ваши коллеги, которым до старта осталось буквально 1,5-2 дня. Что вы при этом чувствуете? Вы тоже тренировались, проходили подготовку на этом космическом корабле, и на тренажерах тоже? И скажите, что нового для себя вы при этом уяснили?
The life of an astronaut is one of training and preparation and support, and it measures not months or weeks, but years. And we are here to support the prime crew, and we will be ready in 5 months for our own flight. And this is an important threshold, but it's one of thousands, and so it's time moves quickly, and we are happy to be able to support right now. But it's really just part of the long process to get us ready for our own chance to launch come 5th of December.
Жизнь астронавта проходит в постоянных тренировках, подготовках, но также и в поддержке своих коллег. Вот мы сейчас находимся именно в этой роли, то есть мы здесь для того, чтобы поддержать своих коллег-астронавтов, которые стартуют сейчас. Наш старт состоится через 5 месяцев, 5 декабря. Мы уже долгие годы готовились, не месяцы, а годы, и вы знаете, что подготовка к космическому полету занимает очень много времени. Поэтому через 5 месяцев я с нетерпением жду, когда я полечу в космос в составе уже основного экипажа.
La vie d'un astronaute, c'est une vie pas des jours, des semaines, des mois, mais c'est une vie de préparation pendant les années. Et donc aujourd'hui, nous avons une chance, un moment tellement important comme les réserves, l'équipe réserve pour les autres là-bas. Mais c'est juste un pas pendant un grand voyage. Et c'est juste peut-être aussi un moment de préparation pour notre lancement après encore un peu moins que 5 mois. Et donc, oui, c'est important, mais dans la perspective de toutes les années d'entraînement, c'est juste un pas pendant beaucoup d'un voyage long. Donc, nous sommes prêts. Mais le lancement pour nous, c'est après un peu moins que 5 mois en décembre.
Спасибо большое. Можете заметить, насколько международный экипаж.
Thank you very much. As you can see, our international crew members can speak 4 languages. I have the same question for Yuri and Sanita. What feelings and what expectations do you have regarding your flight with Akihiko? We would all like to know.
Ну, если коротко, то чувство очень хорошее.
In short, it's a very good feeling. Akihiko, as an individual, is a good comrade, a good friend. We know each other very well. He's a professional, a true professional. We have worked on different systems together, on different simulators inside Soyuz, and he understands everything very quickly. He is well prepared, and he's a high-level professional. Also, it is nice to see that he is representing one of our ISS program partners, and it will be good for us to work with specialists who are in Japan. We have worked with them while preparing on the ground, and we always have a good relationship with them, and now we will have an opportunity to work with them in space as well. Thank you.
And I agree, Aki is a great gift for our crew. We're very lucky to have him as part of our crew. I can't imagine our crew without him. We're sort of a small little family now. So we are very lucky to be working together and have Aki as part of our crew.
Я абсолютно согласна с Юрием. Аки — это просто великолепный подарок для нашего экипажа, и я с нетерпением жду полета в космос с ним. Я просто не представляю себе наш экипаж без Аки.
Спасибо.
Здравствуйте.
Hello, my name is Madina Karamanova. I'm a student of journalism department of the Kazakhstan State University. I am here as a practice, and I'm sure my fellow students will be very jealous about what I get to do. Yuri, you flew with Talgat Musabayev and earned the honorable title of the National Hero of Kazakhstan. Do you see Talgat very often? And also, the 2 Kazakhstan cosmonauts, so when will they get a chance to fly in space? And can you help us here? And also, what interests you the most? Thank you for your responses.
Да, действительно, вот как раз в эти дни мы с Талгатом
Yes, Talgat Amalgabevich and I in 1994 flew in space together. It's been 18 years since we flew, and in that flight we accomplished 2 programs. The program that was prepared by Russia, the Russian national program, and also we had a big program prepared for us by the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Kazakhstan. That was very interesting as well, and in the end of our flight, after we accomplished this program, we were given the honor of the Heroes of the Republic of Kazakhstan. That was bestowed on us by the President of Kazakhstan. We keep in touch. We talk regularly. Last time I saw him was actually today. He is here today. And he will be watching our launch. And of course, we would like to see representatives of Kazakhstan participating in our flights as well. And the 2 crew members that you mentioned were trained in Star City in Russia, and they are ready to be included in a specific group and maybe even be included in specific crews. And I know that there are negotiations going on at this time. I'm sure soon we will see them as part of crews. I will be happy to see cosmonauts from Kazakhstan included in the crew of the International Space Station. Thank you.
День добрый, Николай Захаров.
Nikolai Zakharov, NTV television company. Of course, for Prime Crew, I have a question. Today you talked a lot about your science experiments, over 40 experiments. The most interesting ones, maybe can you narrow down to 3? Maybe you'll grow flowers on board of the ISS that you will be growing out of seeds that you will bring with you, or something like this. Can you mention 3 most interesting or most fascinating experiments? Do I understand that this question is correctly, that this question is for all crew members? Yes. For me, all experiments are always interesting. I don't like to single out some of them, any of them. For example, when we go outside of the station, we will be collecting samples, and this will be a continuation of the scientific experiment that's been going on for years. We will be collecting samples from the surface of the ISS and bring them back inside the airlock, and then to be subsequently returned to the ground, where they will be studied and researched. This is very important. It will be important for building future satellites or rockets. Another experiment that we will be doing is launching a small satellite by jettisoning it with the help of special mechanism that allows it to launch it in the correct direction. It will be sort of a spring mechanism that will allow us to jettison it further. We will be conducting research to allow us to understand better the trajectory of objects jettisoned in space, what angles these trajectories assume, etc. So that is also important for us to understand various things, such as the trajectories of satellites. That becomes important even in piloting manned spacecraft as well. Maybe Sunny will want to talk about an experiment.
There's so many experiments that we're participating in and that will be occurring on the space station. It's sort of hard to say which ones you like the best or which ones are the most interesting.
Мы планируем принять участие в большом количестве научных экспериментов на борту космической станции. И на самом деле очень трудно выделить какой-то один и сказать, что вот именно этот эксперимент представляет наибольший интерес для нас.
So I'll put it in categories rather than a specific experiment, if that's okay.
То есть я все эксперименты разделила на несколько категорий. Так нормально будет?
Like biological experiments that we'll be doing on ourselves, I think are very important to understand what happens to the human body so we can go beyond low Earth orbit and venture on into other planets.
Значит, прежде всего, эта группа биологических экспериментов для нас представляет наибольший интерес, как человеческий организм реагирует на невесомость, на космическую обстановку и что с ним происходит дальше по возвращению на Землю.
And those experiments involve physical fitness, taking samples from ourselves, using ultrasound, and cardiovascular measuring equipment.
Другие эксперименты, они связаны с физическими упражнениями. Во время этих экспериментов мы занимаемся различными пробами своего тела. Мы выполняем различные упражнения и смотрим, как наш организм реагирует тоже на это.
And then there's a general category of education and understanding just some of the basic things that happen in space.
И дальше эксперименты, связанные с образованием, с изучением чего-то, то есть смотрим уже как.
Some of that is basic physics, and other things in that category involve an experiment with a jumping spider.
Основные эксперименты связаны с физикой, и далее группа экспериментов, связанных с прыгающим пауком.
And the third group of experiments which are occurring on the space station, we're not even part of, are, of course, AMS, which is working all the time.
И мы, как вы уже сказали, являемся частью экипажа. Мы будем непрерывно работать на борту Международной космической станции.
And also ground control type of experiments where while we're up there, they'll be performing a external refueling mission using ground control. So the station has all sorts of facets of science. It's hard to actually pin down which is the coolest, because they're all really cool.
На самом деле много экспериментов, как я уже сказала, и трудно выделить какой-то один эксперимент, какой-то самый клевый эксперимент, скажем так.
Well, just like Sunny said, it's very hard to choose one out of many interesting experiments.
В этом вопросе я соглашусь абсолютно с Саней, потому что очень трудно выделить какой-то один эксперимент и назвать его самым интересным.
There is, however, one unique experiment or technical experiment that we'll be doing during our increment.
Однако существует один очень уникальный технический эксперимент, который запланирован на нашу экспедицию.
And that is to deploy a small satellite, actually 5 of them, using the Japanese robotic arm.
Этот эксперимент связан с запуском маленького спутника, даже 5 спутников, при помощи японского манипулятора.
In the past, we either launched small satellites piggybacking big satellites, or like the Russian cosmonauts has been doing, go out EVA and deploying it.
До этого мы занимались тоже подобного рода экспериментами, то есть мы запускали и маленькие спутники, и большие спутники. Я знаю, российские космонавты при проведении выхода в открытый космос также занимались запуском спутников.
And this time, we're going to try for the first time launching it satellites in a HTV spacecraft, and then opening it up inside the space station using the Japanese airlock to bring it outside. Grab it with a Japanese robotic arm, and then deploy it using a spring force.
Далее, значит, у нас спутник придет этот к нам грузовым кораблем HTV. Мы извлечем его оттуда, поместим в шлюзовой отсек японского модуля. Далее при помощи японского манипулятора мы выведем его в открытый космос, где раскроем его.
And we hope that this will open up more opportunities for other users, not just the users that exist right now, but open up business for all users in the future.
И мы надеемся, что это принесет какую-то пользу и нам, и в будущем тем людям, которые будут заниматься подобного рода экспериментами.
Спасибо. Давайте мы будем задавать.
Thank you very much. Let's ask questions specifically addressing them for specific crew members rather than an entire crew, in the interest of time.
And if you could as well answer in French and English, that would be wonderful. So although most of you have come from very different cultural backgrounds and you have a wide range of expertise, there's one common thread that ties you all together, which is that you're all very strong leaders. Chris, could you tell us if you have any advice to give the young students of Canada to become stronger leaders to their peers and to their community as well?
Перевод, пожалуйста. Вопрос Крису Хатфилду от канадского телевидения. Вот я смотрю на вас, Крис, на вас, на членов вашего экипажа. Вы все такие сильные, здоровые, молодые люди. Можете ли вы дать какой-то совет студентам, что нужно делать, чтобы вот быть похожими на вас?
The first step that I have the opportunity, and all of us do, luckily, to speak to tens of thousands of young people around the world. It's a real privilege of wearing the blue suit.
Прежде всего хочу отметить, что для нас является большой честью и привилегией носить вот эти голубые костюмы и разговаривать с десятками тысяч людей на Земле с борта.
The first and most important facet of leadership is competence. You have to have competence. Whatever your field of leadership is in, you need to have done the work, prepared yourself so that you have the technical capability in order to lead the people that are going to follow you.
Чтобы быть хорошим руководителем, нужно быть прежде всего компетентным во всех вопросах. Это прежде, я считаю, самое главное, основное качество.
And then the second most important is communication. You have to find out what people want and look for in advance. You have to tell them real time what has to happen, if it's an urgent moment or even a quiet moment, and then you have to listen to what they say in response. Two-way communication is the other vital part of good and effective leadership.
И вторым наиболее значимым качеством нашего сотрудничества является связь, то есть взаимосвязь, скажем так, двусторонняя взаимосвязь между членами экипажа. То есть нужно правильно уметь объяснять людям, какие задачи им предстоит выполнить. Нужно слушать людей, нужно понимать, насколько задача срочная, либо есть время на ее выполнение.
Comme astronautes et cosmonautes, nous sommes tellement chanceux d'avoir la chance de parler avec des élèves partout au monde. Pour moi, le leadership, la première partie, la plus importante, c'est d'avoir de la compétence, c'est d'avoir les techniques, les choses nécessaires pour absolument savoir les détails du travail et d'avoir la qualification d'être un leader d'un groupe. Et la deuxième partie, c'est la communication. C'est nécessaire pas seulement de parler, mais aussi d'écouter, de chercher les opinions et l'information nécessaire. Si vous avez un moment, un cas d'urgence, c'est nécessaire d'avoir la communication tellement claire et directe. Et aussi, après ça, d'écouter bien et attentivement tout le groupe pour être un bon leader.
Mauricio Segovia for Russia Today Television. I have two questions. The first one would be, usually people, when they are facing an important moment in their lives, they have like a soundtrack. There's a soundtrack that pops up in their mind. And I was wondering, what is going to be your soundtrack on Sunday when you're sitting in that Soyuz on the way to the ISS?
Первый вопрос от нас ТВ. Каждый раз, когда человек сталкивается с каким-то важным, ответственным моментом в своей жизни, у него, возможно, в голове звучит какая-то музыка, какой-то саундтрек, ассоциирующийся с этим моментом. Вот что вы будете слушать, сидя в корабле при подготовке к вашему старту? Какой саундтрек у вас будет?
And the second question would be, if you had to choose to pick one single thing that you haven't done in space or in the ISS still, what would it be?
И далее, если вам придется выбирать между тем, что делать в рамках космической станции, либо там за ее пределами, вообще, какую вещь вы еще не сделали на борту?
And of course, that you really want to do.
И что вы будете делать?
Well, I'll answer the first question, if that's okay.
Я отвечу на первый вопрос, хорошо?
Because I sort of started thinking about this a little bit, and the Black Eyed Peas come to mind.
Я уже немного думала об этом, и мне почему-то в голову пришла группа Black Eyed Peas.
And if you know the song, Tonight's Gonna Be a Good Time, and the second one, of course, is Let's Get This Party Started.
И если вы знаете их наиболее две популярные песни, сегодня будет хороший вечер, и давайте начнем эту вечеринку.
So just to touch on the first question, we'll see what pops up in my mind that day when I'm sitting. But there is a new JAXA theme song for this mission, so I look forward to listening to that probably once I'm on orbit or maybe even earlier, so we'll see about that.
Я отвечу сначала на первый вопрос. Посмотрим, что всплывет у меня в голове в тот момент, когда я буду сидеть при подготовке к старту. Вообще, на самом деле, есть новая песня японская, которая будет звучать, и я с нетерпением жду этого момента.
And for the second question, there's one thing that I'm looking forward to, and that is the EVA.
И отвечая на второй вопрос, единственное, что я с нетерпением жду, это мой выход в открытый космос.
Я бы ответил по поводу музыки.
Regarding the music, it's an important
Не уверен, какая бы музыка.
moment, and I don't know if I'll have music in my head at that time. But if Sunny has music, then I can listen to hers. That's good enough for me. Now, regarding what I look forward to on board of the ISS, my entire life I've been a pilot. If I was short on time and could only do one thing, I would fly around the station and enjoy the view, because it's a wonderful creation of humanity. It looks great against the background of the Earth, and it changes entirely when the sun rises or when the sun sets. It's a completely different view, different colors. It's gorgeous.
First question, I would say that I don't know what pops up in my mind when I will be preparing for my launch. So I will be listening Sunny's music. That's okay for me. And answering the second question, the only one thing that I would like to do is to fly around the whole station on board the Soyuz, because station is so huge and views are so different and beautiful, and it's pretty nice to see when the sun rises and sun sets, and it's so cute.
Ну, у нас получилось, что мы ответили на этот вопрос, и у нас...
Looks like we've answered this question, and so we have one last question, please.
Телекомпания NHK для господина.
NHK for Mr. Koshide.
Скажите, пожалуйста, вы неоднократно говорили о том, что...
You have mentioned more than once that your dream is to make space more reachable to the people on Earth. How do you see you can accomplish that? And also you mentioned the first satellite that you will be launching from the Kibo module. What is the message that you would like to send to the students and to the people who are working on making these satellites, and will do that in the future as well?
So for the first question, yes, I think right now there's only a handful of people that go up to space every year. And that's just the cosmonauts and astronauts and another handful of people.
Отвечая на первый вопрос, существует ряд людей, космонавты, астронавты, которые каждый год летают на борт Международной космической станции.
But as you can see today in this room, we've all been to space, we've all worked in space already, and it's becoming a routine for the humankind.
Ну и как вы видите, мы все уже летали в космос, мы все работали в космосе, и у нас есть возможность опять поработать вместе там.
And I think it's our job and responsibility to pave the way for the future generation.
И я считаю, что наша работа и наша ответственность состоит в том, чтобы прокладывать путь в будущее, путь в космос.
And for your second question regarding the small satellites, we have 5 satellites. They are built by university students as well as some companies in Japan and in the United States.
И, как я уже говорила, о 5 спутниках, которые мы планируем запускать, эти спутники были разработаны студентами университетов, также различными японскими компаниями.
And in the past, it was more for the university students to experience the project, but now it's more and more towards business. Different companies has different things that they are thinking, different ideas that they want to try in space.
В прошлом, когда разрабатывались эти спутники впервые студентами университетов, это было приобретение некого опыта, познания чего-то нового. Сейчас это уже превратилось в какой-то своего рода вид деятельности и бизнес, который вот сейчас происходит.
So I encourage everyone, either in universities or in the industries, to come up with different ideas and try it out in space.
И я абсолютно за то, чтобы люди, студенты университетов, либо работники различных компаний, чтобы они приходили с новыми идеями и каким-то образом воплощали эти идеи в жизнь.
Спасибо большое. На этом мы
Thank you very much. This completes our press conference.
наших космонавтов.
Please thank our cosmonauts for their great responses.
Мы желаем основному
We
экипажу
wish the prime crew a successful launch and successful work on board over the ISS and a successful return, and for the backup crew, successful preparation for their December launch and the traditional photograph. Please, prime crew.
Два экипажа, пожалуйста, под эмблемку.
Two crews together, please. Both crews, please.
Томас. Так. И, пожалуйста, основной экипаж.
Now, prime crew, please.
Поближе чуть-чуть, Юрий, поближе чуть подойдите.
Please step closer. That's good.
И какое-нибудь рукопожатие.
Maybe a handshake.
Все, пока. Помашите. Помашите.
Now wave.
Thank you. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much.
Большое спасибо.
Thank you.
Все, помашите. Спасибо вам за хорошие вопросы.
Good morning and welcome to today's International Space Station update. On board the station is the crew of Expedition 32, currently commanded by Russian cosmonaut Gennady Padalka there in the center. To the left is another Russian cosmonaut, Sergei Revin, on his first space flight. And on the right there, NASA astronaut Joe Akaba, veteran of one shuttle mission STS-119, on his first long-duration stay on board the International Space Station. So the crew pretty busy this week, doing a range of science experiments and maintenance work to systems on board the International Space Station. Starting off on Monday, Commander Padalka was doing some maintenance on the Russian comm system. He was working alongside Sergei Revin as they look to do an upgrade to the integrated command and telemetry system, which is functions on the S-band communication, and it'll be used for future payload transmissions to ground sites, as these astronauts are always working in conjunction with subject matter experts on the ground for any payloads and experiments. And aside from that, Padalka was also working on cleaning some of the dust filters in the Mini Research Module 1 or the Rosviet module, making sure that the astronauts' air revitalization systems working in tip-top shape. Meanwhile, Russian cosmonaut Sergei Revin was stowing some items inside of the 47 Progress vehicle, that Russian unmanned cargo craft currently docked to the International Space Station. It'll have some pretty interesting activities a little bit later this month as it undocks on July 22nd and redocks just a little over a day later, testing out one of its new Core's automatic rendezvous system, which always guides these unmanned cargo craft to the International Space Station. After that redocking test, it'll undock for the final time on July 30th, and then re-enter and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. And meanwhile, on Monday, NASA astronaut Joe Akaba was working with the BCAT-6 experiment, BCAT standing for the Binary Colloidal Alloy Test. Colloids are these tiny suspensions of particles and fluids, and is one of the many particle experiments on board the station, giving researchers here on the ground some fundamental insights into the base level of how particles grow and crystallize in microgravity. He was mixing, photographing, and stowing some of those samples. And also on Monday, he did his first work with the station's EarthCam, which stands for Earth Knowledge Acquired by Middle School Students. And he was setting that up inside of the Window Observational Research Facility on board the station. This was in preparation for some week-long activities that have been going on, where over 120 different schools and groups across the country have been controlling that camera via controls on the internet, allowing students, again, across the country, a chance to use the station's unique vantage point to take photos of different geological features around the globe. Moving on to Tuesday, Commander Padalka was inside of another unmanned cargo craft, the ATV-3, doing a assembly, removal, and replacement work on the cabin fan. This was done in preparation for some cargo activities later on in the week. So all of this was necessary to make the ATV-3 vehicle, which you can see here on your screen. Currently it's the largest unmanned resupply vehicle that visits the International Space Station, and he was doing that cabin fan assembly replacement work in preparation for some cargo work he'd be doing later in the week. He was also busy inspecting and photographing some of the windows on the station's service module on the Russian segment, looking for any discoloration or any potential nicks or scratches. You can see the station layout here, that ATV-3 docked to the aft portion of the station. The Progress 47 craft docked to the nadir or the Earth-facing side, and their Soyuz TMA-04M spacecraft docked to the Poisk module on the Zenith or space-facing side. It's the craft that brought these astronauts to the International Space Station just back in May. Also on Tuesday, Sergei Revin was stowing some more items inside of that 47 Progress craft and doing an update to the station's inventory management system, which looks to track all the items on board the station. And Joe Acabo was back doing a few checkouts on that Earth cam and also troubleshooting the station's ISAC camera, which is another Earth observations project on board the station, which ISAC stands for International Space Station Agricultural Camera. He was troubleshooting a laptop failure that's used to control it, and once he was done with all that, he took some time out of his day to do a ham radio contact with the WISH program here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. That was women in STEM high school aerospace scholars using the station's ham radio to do a quick Q&A with students down here on the ground. Moving on to Wednesday, Gennady Padalka woke up and immediately went into sample collection for the Russian immuno experiment, taking blood, saliva, and urine samples, which is then used to check for different hormones associated with stress response. This immuno study looks to track any changes in the astronauts' immune system during their long duration space flights, and also couples it with stress tests to find any correlations between an increase or decrease of stress and functioning of the human body's immune system. He was also doing some more window inspections in the service module, also known as Zvezda, and doing some repair and recovery work on the Russian Vozduk system, which is one of the air revitalization systems on board the station, which looks to constantly scrub carbon dioxide from the breathing atmosphere for these astronauts. And also working on the station's atmospheric system was Sergei Revin, who's doing some maintenance on the Russian Electron, which is their oxygen generation system. There are quite a few over on the U.S. segment as well, but these Russians were doing some routine maintenance, getting theirs up and working. And Revin was also cleaning a few of the ventilation screens on the Zarya module's interior panels, and also working on its gas-liquid heat exchanger. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, Joe Acabo was doing his first checkout of the HTV hardware command panel. That HTV vehicle is scheduled to launch next week on July 21st, and then rendezvous and capture and berth just about 6 days later. That is an unmanned cargo craft from the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, which will be delivering about 4.6 tons of cargo to this newly expanded Expedition 32 crew. Acabo was also at work with the Sphere satellites, doing a few test runs as they practice their automated rendezvous and docking procedures. Sphere standing for the synchronized position, hold, engage, and reorient experimental satellites. These small bowling ball sized objects. You can see the orange one there spinning in the middle of your screen. Completely autonomous and self-contained satellites that practice things like formation flying and docking using algorithms that are written down and uplinked from the ground. So moving on to Thursday, Commander Padalka was back inside of that ATV cargo craft, moving a few trash items in as they look to clear up space for cargo coming up on that HTV vehicle. He was also doing some monthly maintenance on the station's TVIS, which is the treadmill with vibration and isolation stabilization. And that was just some monthly maintenance to make sure it's still working as it should be. And then Sergei Revin was busy taking his own saliva and blood samples for that Russian immuno test, and also did some hardware setup and execution of the Russian relaxation experiment, which looks to determine the effects of propulsion system exhausts on the Earth's upper atmosphere and also on any optically sensitive surfaces on board the station like windows, equipment, lenses, and solar array panels. And meanwhile, on Thursday, Joe Acaba was hard at work on that BASS experiment, BASS standing for the burning and suppression of solids. He uses a fuel system and an igniter and then a series of fans to combust a bunch of different solid fuel samples and then study their burn characteristics and the best way in which to suppress them, and an ongoing study to figure out the best way to combat any potential accidental fires that might break out in microgravity. And all that brings us to today, Friday, where starting off with Russian Commander Gennady Padalka, who immediately upon waking up participated in the Russian Sprut experiment alongside with Sergei Revin that looks to study the distribution of fluids and microgravity throughout these astronauts' bodies, as gravity is not constantly pushing everything down towards your legs. It kind of redistributes and can have effects on how well these astronauts stay hydrated. It's the Russian study looking to combat any of the negative effects that may come out of that. And Padalka will also be doing a test a little bit later today on the station's TV system through their KU band, which delivers all the video from the station down to the ground. And that's all being done in preparation for the upcoming monitoring of their Soyuz docking, which will be delivering their 3 new crew members next week on Tuesday at about 11:52 p.m. Central Time. And aside from that Sprut experiment, his fellow Russian cosmonaut Sergei Revin is doing some inspection of a few more windows inside of the station's service module, or Zvezda, again looking for any discoloration or potential dings or scratches on the inside or outside. And Joe Acaba, meanwhile, is closing out his week cleaning a few more exhaust and intake ducts inside of the crew quarters, and then opening up the U.S. Labs window shutters in support of that ISAC camera, the International Space Station agricultural camera, which he was troubleshooting a little bit earlier this week, and doing a final swap out on some of those EarthCam batteries as students continue to control that camera via the internet to take pictures of geological features around the planet.